Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect, episode 356. We are recording this and broadcasting live on Sunday, January 17th, 2021. I'm David Lotz. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Yasha Wilson.
Hey, everybody.
And Michelle Hillard.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going, everybody?
Yay!
The gang's all here.
We're all here.
The gang's all here. And it's the best show of the year.
It's the best show of the year.
I think it's the most exciting show of the year.
No, I would agree.
I would agree.
I would agree. It almost feels like, sadly, like a holiday.
It is like a holiday.
Is that pathetic?
We prep for it for like weeks too. So it's a holiday because you spend so much time prepping for it and
Right.
being ready for it. It's fun.
So yeah, today we are going to be counting down our top 10 films of 2020. Among other things, we have a bunch of other categories to talk about, honorable mentions, of course, tons of stuff. This is going to be a long show. With that in mind, we might actually take a little intermission break in the middle of this one. And if you're listening to the audio version of this show, yeah, it will almost certainly be split into two. All of our top 10 lists will be on one episode along with our honorable mentions. And then another episode will come soon thereafter we'll go on to talk about like different categories from 2020, like most disappointing film, stuff we're looking forward to in 2021, stuff like that. So
More discussion, conversational.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's the plan for this week.
Plan.
Yeah, we should probably jump right into it pretty quickly. But
Yeah.
I mean, as always, we like to kind of, go over some of the kind of rules, I guess, if you will, of what's going to happen. Yeah, we're gonna cover our top 10 lists. I think one thing I always like to mention is we haven't seen everything, in case you're listening to our list and thinking, hey, how the hell did you exclude this? How the hell did you exclude that? I mean, this is not our professional job. This is not our one and only job. We don't just get to watch movies whenever we want. So we've seen a lot of stuff, but we haven't seen everything. Yeah, what else is there to cover really before we do this? I mean, we are going to each list our own top 10 lists. And it should also be noted, we keep these lists private from each other. So as we do this here during the show, this will be the first time the rest of us have heard each other's lists. So we don't know them ahead of time. I think that's important.
Yeah. The Bowl of Destiny has chosen the order this evening.
The Bowl of Destiny has chosen the order. And it looks like Bobby's going to be first. First of all, is there anything I'm forgetting anybody wants to bring up before we kind of jump into this?
I think the only other general rule is I don't think we do it the way like the Oscars have the rules, but basically it needs to be a film that was initially released somehow in 2020, even though we might not have seen it until 2021, right?
Yeah, I
Kind
mean,
of.
this year's funky.
It's kind of weird.
I mean, normally we would say, hey, if it's eligible for the Oscars, meaning it got a theatrical release in 2020,
Somewhere.
then it's eligible for our list. Now this year, like you mentioned it, I think a couple episodes back, Bobby, the eligibility for the Oscars is a little different because of COVID. I think movies can come out as late as like sometime in February. Is that right? And still be eligible for the Oscars. So we're definitely not just straight up using those rules. I'd almost like to argue this year there's really not any rules here. I mean, for me, my one rule, and I mean, you guys can do whatever you want. We've all made our lists. We don't know what our lists are. Hey, whatever you want on your list, it's fine. I don't put TV shows on my list. But then there's certain things that came out this year that, are on some weird kind of borderline of like, is this considered TV or a movie? But I don't know. I think we all kind of know what kind of stuff we're putting on our list and what we're not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So now,
Oh, go ahead, Bobby.
no, I was just gonna say, a lot of times, especially within recent weeks, when we've been doing some sort of list, there's been occasions where you guys have sort of done it on the fly and placing things as we speak. Is that happening? Or are all your spots locked in? If official, nothing's moving around at this point.
Nothing's moving around for me. I do have a list.
Nope, mine's locked
Okay.
in. All 10 are They're on there.
I should be
Done.
noted, I did my list this morning. Well, because, and I was going to touch on this more later, and I will, but I mean, I've been watching a ton of movies in the past 2 weeks. I say a ton. I mean, I think it came out to 10 films in the last 2 weeks.
It's about normal for us every year, though.
So, and I think there's been previous years I've watched actually more than that because I ended up taking like a couple days off work and actually like watching 4 or 5 films in a day, which I did not do this year. But
That's true.
considering I watched my last film this morning, yeah, I put my list together this morning. I had only kind of listed movies that I had seen throughout the year that I could say were eligible for my list ahead of time. But I didn't actually number anything, really make a 10 until this morning. Yasha, are you locked down with the list, or are you going to be pulling a Yasha this week?
Sure, let's go with that.
He's
I'm
pulling
literally
Yasha.
I'm editing and crossing that out as we speak, and I'm just like, oh yeah, no, well maybe, and I've been thinking about it, so I always have a soft draft in my head. It's weird. This is kind of how I write essays too when I was in school. It's just like, how do I want to do this? And then I just kind of think about it, and then I just kind of do it, and I just kind of put it up, fly off the handle. And that's kind of where I'm at with this now. It's like I have kind of an idea of how I'm doing it, but at the same time, I've only made one adjustment, so that's an improvement from what it's been in the past when we've done years, because usually they look like crossword puzzles are scratched out and like it's spelling and just arrows changing things in direction, and that's not what this is today. So I'm pretty pleased with myself.
All right.
But that being said, of what we were also talking about, I did not watch a lot, so it's almost finding like, oh, these 10 movies that I did watch, what order do I want to put them in from my least favorite to my favorite?
Yeah, and that's something I think Yasha and I talked a little bit about last week when we did a show, just the two of us. I mean, our lists are always different from each other to a certain degree. I feel like this year, more than ever, we are really looking at a situation where we could have some very different lists, more than I think we've seen on this show, purely because the majority of stuff I know I've watched at home. I mean, a lot of us can't even go to a theater if we so choose. It's not like we've been seeing the same studio-made, theatrically released films every week throughout the year. When I did my kind of usual going on the internet and looking at other people's top 10 lists, I saw a very wide array, more than ever, I feel like, of top 10 lists out there. So I don't know. This year could be really interesting for this. As always, I'm really curious to see what everybody has on their list. With that, Bobby's it's time to get started.
Take us in.
Start it off,
Dive
Bobby.
in.
You are going to get us started with your number 10 film of 2020, if you're ready.
I'm ready. So my number 10 is a movie that I don't think a lot of people had a chance to watch because of all the things that's been happening within that past year of 2020. But it was something that when I heard about it, I really wanted to check it out. Got a chance to maybe about a month and a half ago and really enjoyed it. It's called Love and Monsters, starring Dylan O'Brien and Jessica Henwick from Iron Fist fame. And the basic premise is that a meteor hits the Earth, and it causes the creatures or animals that are on the Earth to grow exponentially larger. And they're basically monsters at this point that are starting to pick off the humans. And we find Dylan O'Brien's character living underground, and Jessica Henwick was his girlfriend prior to this apocalyptic event, and they get separated. So he finds himself one day summoning up the courage to go track cross country, or at least within the state, actually, and to go find her and be with her. And it's his journey trying to go through all these perilous different tasks and dangers and adventure that is just, I thought was done really well. It was different. It was fun. The character design for the monsters, which were just a lot of times just regular, maybe insects or something, just that are super huge. So well done. It's hard to believe that this had such a small budget because it was really, really well done. And Dylan O'Brien, I just found myself really enjoying his performance in this. I think really the only other thing I've seen him from is the Maze Runner series. I know he was in Teen Wolf TV series on MTV, but I didn't watch that. But just from seeing his previous work and seeing him in this, he seems like someone you should probably see more in the future, because he's charming in a way, and he has this, I guess, regular guy next door kind of likability about him. And I think that it really lends itself well in this role. And I found myself laughing at parts and just like on the edge of my seat in certain parts. It was a really good mix there. And I think that's one, if you have a chance, you should try and check it out. I don't recall how I seen it. At this point, I've seen so many different things. It may have been on Amazon Prime, or I had to have gotten it on VOD. It was one of the two, but I don't recall at this point. But that's my number 10, Love and Monsters.
Nice.
Number 10, Love and Monsters. Yasha, you were picked next by the Bowl. So, well, what is it? What's your number 10 film of 2020?
Okay. It's weird because I have kind of like a love-hate relationship as regards to what I think about this film, and I don't necessarily think that it's that great, but I liked the idea of the direction that they were going with it, and I just think that it was poorly executed, but in the same time, I did relatively enjoy it, I think. But also, for lack of options to be able to really select of what I could bring out, because I didn't see a lot of things, I've decided to put this as my number 10. I went with a David Ayer film because I like him, and I chose The Tax Collector as my number 10. Has Bobby Soto, Shia LaBeouf, who actually was pretty good in the film. I just think that his character was kind of cut short. It's a crime drama. David Ayer really likes doing these crime, police drama, underworld type of roles when it comes to directing and writing and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting to watch. The trailer is amazing. The execution of the film is kind of poor. But since I don't really have too many things to select from, because I haven't seen that much, I kind of went with this, and that's why I chose The Tax Collector. It's not a definite must-see, but it is something that you can probably watch and be relatively entertained with it.
Nice. The Tax Collector. I have not seen that. I haven't seen either of the movies so far. So that's your...
Batting 1,000.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting show. It's going to be an interesting show.
This is true. I guess that brings things to me.
It does.
The Bowl picked me next. So here's my number 10 film of 2020. First I'll say, before I even start my list, it was interesting. I like I said, I did it this morning, and I was able pretty quickly to nail down like the first 2 or 3. And then I looked at the rest of the movies I'd kind of listed as eligible for my list, and was just like, I was lost. I kind of sat there and just looked at them, and I'm like, these are all good movies, and I could see putting them on the list. I have no idea what order to put them in. I mean, I feel pretty comfortable with my order, but it was very difficult to put this in an order. With that said, my number 10 film this year is the Disney Pixar film Soul, which was just released on, what was it, Christmas Day, on Disney Plus. And it's I don't know, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's from, I don't have the director's name in front of me, but it's from a couple directors, one of them being one of the same directors that also directed Inside Out. And I think it has a very similar kind of a vein to it that Inside Out has. And I don't know. It was just a really solid film. I really enjoyed it. No, it's not necessarily like the kiddiest movie of, Disney Pixar films by any stretch of the imagination, but I think all ages can enjoy it, especially adults. So Soul is my number 10 film of 2020.
Just to give credit, the director is Pete Docter and Kemp Powers.
Okay. Pete Docter was the name I was trying to think of.
I was gonna say that, but I for some reason was thinking he just wrote it. I couldn't remember if he just wrote and produced it, but I forgot that he directed
Yeah,
it.
I think
story.
he's got a writing credit on it too.
Story and screenplay by Pete Docter, directors Pete Docter and Kemp Powers. So, yeah.
Okay.
All right, Michelle,
My turn.
your turn.
So
Ooh.
I have a short, not that interesting story about my list this year, but I mean, I guess in my head I kind of had it, but then I sat down this afternoon and just wrote out every single movie I watched in 2020. And then I basically just started extracting films to put in. And I was like, yep, these 10 are great. Now let me put them in order. And then about 20 minutes before we got on, looking through all the little posters that David pulled, there was a movie that I was like, oh my God, I completely forgot that was a 2020 film. I thought that was 2019. And I had to redo my list. So my number 10 got bumped out and is in notable mentions. And then I got the other ones slot in. So now my list is shifted a little bit. Anyways, but it's solid. I know exactly what I'm doing. So my number 10, I know what I'm doing. I really do. My number 10 for this year is a film that came out really early in the year. I remember seeing it and I really enjoyed it. I came out of the theater happy and thinking, man, that was hell of enjoyable. And that is The Gentleman. It's a film that I think was kind of came out of nowhere for me. And yeah, it's got a full cast of fabulous actors. I thought the storyline was really interesting and the way they had everything kind of play out. And now I'm losing it. It's Guy Ritchie, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
It's
Guy Ritchie
Yeah.
film, which I enjoy. I mean, sometimes he's had a few misses with me, but overall, I always like his movies. No, yeah, just solid film, start to finish. I think really enjoyable. Oh, it's definitely one that I would like to. Sadly, it's surprising I haven't, but I'd like to revisit just sitting at home and watch this movie. Yeah, so The Gentleman, Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, I don't think I've rewatched it since
Yeah, we haven't.
saw it in the theater.
No.
And I own it, actually.
But I liked it. But I think it's
Yeah,
just that
enough to own it,
This
and-
year, every time when we actually have the time to sit down to watch a film,
Right.
we're trying to watch something new. Like,
Yeah.
it's been, hey, we actually have 2.5 hours. Let's throw something that we haven't actually watched on.
Right.
You know, one crazy idea. So yeah, all right.
It's
We
your
finally got
number
one
10.
down. Yep, The Gentleman.
Moving on to number 9.
Number 9.
Back to you, Bobby.
So my number 9 is a Netflix movie that came out in 2020 and one that was highly anticipated. And I think it came and went fairly quietly, really, honestly. But I really enjoyed it. And so my number 9 for 2020 is Mank. And this is the David Fincher movie that's about Herman Mankiewicz and how he struggled to make the movie that he was doing for Citizen Kane, really, and just a lot of the backstory on part of the creation and inspiration and some of the politics that went into it. And it's just such a beautifully made film, the way it recreates that era. And it just, I thought when I was watching it, I felt like I was transported in that time and was able to kind of be a fly on the wall in terms of seeing some of the things that he went through to make this movie. And just seeing that relationship between him and the studio and how contentious it was. And then also him being under some type of pressure from Orson Welles and just the idea that Orson Welles was sort of this wonderkind and just like everyone was willing to give him everything to make this movie. It really expanded my knowledge of the movie actually itself in terms of Citizen Kane and what it took to make it. And I haven't had a chance to go back and watch Citizen Kane after having seen Mank, but it does make me want to do that at some point in time just because I have that context in mind when I have a chance to go watch it. But such a good movie, and if you haven't seen it, and if you have that interest, at least in what most people consider one of the greatest movies of all time, you definitely should check it out.
Mank, your number 9. I still haven't seen Citizen Kane, but maybe someday.
Yeah,
It's
maybe
gonna,
someday.
it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen
Wow.
because I think love or hate Citizen Kane. I think as a movie film aficionado slash critic that we all are, it's something that you should definitely have in your repertoire of movie film history.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean,
It's
it's
gonna-
usually
it's
taught
gonna
in
happen.
classes,
I agree.
So,
It's gonna happen.
yeah.
Yasha.
No, I agree with you 100%, Michelle. It's definitely something that you should say that you could say that you have seen. Like that's especially being as big a movie film buff that you have. Like being somebody that when I was in school, I was doing a film appreciation or something like that course, and it was like that movie in itself was such a groundbreaking movie as it being made, and the directing. And I don't mean just like the directing of how it transitioned from, but like the shots from the roof, the shots from the ground, the shots, over somebody's shoulder, the superimposing, like that was all like a lot of those were all just created for that movie. Like that he did that first. And then everybody was like, oh my God, look at how much he's changed it. It's a changed film. So it's just something that I think you should watch
No, for sure.
too. Yeah.
All right.
All right, Yasha,
Okay.
you're number 9.
So my number 9 is a very obscure film. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it, but I love the idea, and I hope that they keep going with this film. It's saying it was listed as 2019, but when I did research, I think we got it in 2020, so I'm putting it on my 2020 list. And that is a movie written by Jason Lee Howden and directed, and I'm talking about Guns Akimbo with Daniel Radcliffe as Samara Weaving. And I mean, what can I say about this movie? Just really kind of a dark humor type of action, mindless violence type of film. But I really love the fact that Daniel Radcliffe ventures out into these obscure roles. I think a lot of it is in due part so he can distance himself a little bit further from being typecast as Harry Potter. And that's kind of what he did with this one for sure. And Guns Akimbo was just violence incarnate and just wildly inappropriate and funny at the same time. And I really kind of enjoyed it. I recommended it to my friends like right away. So I would definitely say if you like really interesting dark humor, this is definitely a movie for you. Guns Akimbo, my number 9.
Another movie I still haven't seen.
Nope.
All right, I guess that means we're moving on back to me. My number 9 film is a film that, obviously I enjoyed it. I have it at my number 9 spot, but it's also one of those movies that I couldn't necessarily recommend to everybody, depending on your kind of movie. If you're not into movies that are not, conventional, this movie is certainly not for you. And it's a movie that even after I saw it, I was a little unsure about. And luckily, it's not the one I watched this morning, thank God, because then I wouldn't have had the time to at least digest it for a couple days and kind of consider other aspects of this movie. And now, I even as I watched it, there were certain things I resonated with, and I liked it a lot. That movie was I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is available on Netflix. I'm curious why Bobby is laughing about it. But
Well,
I think because the sentence that you just said didn't necessarily present it as the title, but it almost felt like that's how you were going and what you were saying. At least that's what
Yeah, it kind of did.
well, anyway,
talking about your list, and then you're just like, I'm thinking of ending things, and I'm like,
I'm
no,
thinking of
don't
ending
do
things.
that.
This movie really brought me down. Anyway, available on Netflix. Charlie Kaufman film. He wrote and directed it. If you're not familiar, he also he wrote Being John Malkovich adaptation, for example. This movie, it's like I said, it's definitely not conventional in any way. It's based on a book, but it's my understanding that he definitely took some serious liberties with what was a much more, I guess, conventional book than this movie is. But with that said, there were definitely things about it that resonated with me, and there was just really great cinematography in it, really great acting. And I don't know. I like seeing something that's just, as different as this is. So yeah, I'm thinking of anything. This was my number 9. It's really good.
So I laughed there because as soon as you started, I think you first couple words you said was something about being unconventional, and I just
Yeah.
knew that
You just knew.
as soon as you said
Just
that.
had it.
Yeah.
All right, Michelle, you're number 9.
My number 9 is something that recently just kind of came out into theaters, and you and I actually got to see it in a theater. How about that?
No, I'm curious.
I think I know.
I enjoyed it. I thought the performance in it was really strong, and I thought the idea behind the film was really interesting and unique. And that is A Promising Young Woman. It's my number 9. I'm trying to think who the director is of this, because now I can't think because my brain just died on me.
really wanted to see
Emerald
that too.
Fennell is the writer and director for this. Carey Mulligan stars in it, along with what's his name?
Bo Burnham.
Bo Burnham. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's one of those movies, like, I really, really liked it, and I could see that they actually could have gone a lot darker with it. And I think that actually would have been really sweet. But overall, I still really enjoyed it. I think Mulligan's performance in it is really good, and I don't know, it was enjoyable in a really weird way. I don't think it's going to be for everybody, but I liked it.
All right. Promising
I
Young
really wanted
Woman.
to see that too.
It was good. Again, obviously, I put it in my list of all the movies I saw, which wasn't a huge list, but of all the movies I saw, I was like, no, this is definitely worthy of my top 10.
I mean, yeah, it should be noted too, if anyone's wondering. Like, yeah, that was only available in theaters for a little bit, but it just came to VOD this weekend.
Did.
So
So it is
Oh,
out
cool.
there.
if you do want to watch it at home, it is possible to do that. I think it's like a $20 rental, but
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
Yash is
well, I
doing
can
after
do
the
that.
show tonight.
Wait, what'd you just say,
Yeah.
Yasha? Yeah, that's what
Well,
I thought you said.
I'm gonna have to wait for it to come down for a $20 rental. Like I wouldn't even do that for independent movies. Like I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna rent a movie for $20. If I'm gonna spend $20 on it, it's gonna be owned in the category.
yeah,
I get that.
I get
All
that.
right. Number 8.
All right, moving on to number 8. Back to you, Bobby. What's your number 8 film of 2020?
Before I mention my number 8, just going back to Michelle's movie, remind me, Michelle, to tell you specifically something about that movie, because I won't say it in front of everybody because not everyone has seen the movie.
Oh, okay.
So, with that being said, my number 8 movie is a movie that came out maybe around this time last year. I can't remember exactly the time frame for it. It may have been one of the movies that was just prior to lockdown and sort of squeaked in. And it was The Invisible Man with Elizabeth Moss. And that movie, I remember getting to see it in the theater, and it was such a cool experience. Even within that time frame, seeing it with people, because it's a scary movie in a lot of ways, because there's this way that it was shot, and it wasn't that old school someone's wrapped in bandages kind of thing. It was like the guy's wearing something that makes him invisible, so they don't show you, he's just there a lot of times, but you don't know that he's there until something happens. So it played on that concept and that idea in such a new and different, interesting way that whatever that they were gonna do at Universal with their monster movies, I'm glad that it didn't work out, so that we could get something like this that I don't think would have came along had their other stuff worked out. So sometimes that failure can bring success in a different way, and it definitely did succeed. I'm interested in if they do continue on in this series and make another sequel or a sequel to this movie. If not, then I think it was great as a singular movie, and maybe we'll see what happens next with some of their other monster movies that they're going to be doing in partnership with Blumhouse. But as a first one out of the gate, this one really hit those notes of being kind of horrific at the same time as being much of a thriller. And so that was a good way to start off the year, at least when it came out. So that's my number 8.
Number 8, Invisible. Eventually, we're back. Invisible Man. Yasha, your number 8 film of the year.
Man, this is where I was kind of hold up right here. It's just I have kind of like a tie, but I'm not going to do the tie, so I'm going to choose one. And I'm going to take one that's a really, really obscure film. And I really enjoyed it because it was so weird and it was so dark and it was so just an interesting take on a film. And I like that it didn't have a happy ending. That's what I think was really, really crucial to this film in going forward. And I'm talking about Vivarium. Vivarium came out. It's about a young couple trying to buy a house, and they basically get trapped in eternity, I guess is the best way to say it, or purgatory, to raise a new child. And that's pretty much how I'm going to leave it, because I think that the movie loses something if you tell them too much about it. But it is weird as hell, very obscure, and it's not necessarily the happiest of endings. Depends on who you're rooting for, but it was interesting. It had Imogen Poots and Jesse Eisenberg, and it was directed and written by Lorcan Finnegan. Never even heard of him or seen any of his other stuff, but this is a really dark and twisted film, and I think it was definitely worth the watch.
All right, Vivarium, you're number 8. That brings us back to me.
Oh, wait, David.
Oh, yes.
Sorry. So far, you're 0 for 2. What about this one? Have you seen Vibrating?
I'm not.
No. So you're 0 for 3 on Yasha's list. I'm ready. I want to see who wins out on who hasn't seen the most movies from someone's list. And
For someone's.
so far-
okay. So that's what you're going for. All
yeah,
right.
so
Gotcha.
far,
Okay.
yeah,
I have
so
not-
far You're 0 for 3 for.
I've not seen
Yasha's
any of Yasha's films yet.
Nope.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's where we
Here
are.
we go. Let's go.
Goes ditto for me.
All right. Yeah, my number 8 film, a film that I also saw this week, and I don't know. It was on my radar. It wasn't one of the first things I was jumping in to watch when I did my binge over the past couple weeks, but I started to hear a little more about it. I wanted to give it a shot, and I really enjoyed it. And that was Another Round, which stars Mad Mikkelsen. It's a Danish film, so it is subtitled, and the film centers around a group of 4 friends who are all teachers at a school, and they decide to test this theory that you, I guess, are at your best when you are always basically intoxicated to a certain level. I think, they start off with like 0.05% blood alcohol level.
Yeah.
And like it, I don't know. It sounds like a silly concept, but at the same time, I enjoyed the film. I also appreciated that the film didn't take a very predictable approach, which is, this is just straight up terrible and you should never do this, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not at all condoning that you should like drink while you work. But at the same time, I think the film approaches it in a kind of with a complicated approach. Like it doesn't just jump in like this is just all bad and everything just goes terribly for these guys. Like, and I don't know. That's one of the things I found interesting about it. Mads Mikkelsen's performance in it is good. So is everyone else. I really enjoyed it, and that's Another Round. That's my number 8 film of the year.
That was a good one. Yeah, and I think
I love that
it shows
concept.
what?
I said I love that concept. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I love the idea of that story. It sounds like such a fun idea for a story.
It's interesting, and I think it shows the layers and the complexity of alcohol as a whole and how alcohol affects every single person differently, physically, emotionally, and even in their own lives. Like, I think it's just it gives you those kind of windows. Alcohol is a very unique thing, and everybody reacts differently in different ways, and I don't know. It is an interesting concept. I mean, I even told you, David, like, I remember a few times, like, in college, like, before going in for, like, a test or something, I'd knock back a drink, like, in the bathroom and then walk into class just to loosen me up because I'd be so, like, nervous and tense. And just to kind of let my thoughts flow, I would just, quickly get a little buzz and be like, okay, the edge is gone now. And I actually wound up doing pretty well in those tests when I do that. But it's that kind of an idea. It's that you're, yeah, anyways, it's a good movie. You should
It's
watch
good too, especially if you're an American watching it and say you haven't been exposed to other cultures outside the U.S.
Yeah.
For us, for example, it's a good kind of experience of seeing and this is just one country, but how different the way alcohol is treated can be so different from country to country.
it. Yep,
And I mean, this movie's definitely a good example of that too.
totally, for sure. I agree.
All right, Michelle, your number 8
My
film
number 8.
of the year.
I actually have to look at my little notes here. Oh, my number 8 is. I'm wondering if this is going to be on your list because you seem to really like this one. My number 8 is something that I don't think most people have ever even heard of, but it is Dick Johnson is Dead. Ooh, pause for effect. And it's on Netflix right now. It's an interesting story. The director of this, I don't know, would you call it a documentary?
Yeah,
It's documentary kind of style. The director is doing this film about her father, and her father's going, into the steps of Alzheimer's and his, the completion of his life, basically, because it's not good once you get to certain stages. And I don't know, she takes kind of interesting spin on things, puts it in a different light. And I just thought it was just a really beautifully well done way of capturing her father's story, and a nice way that we can say goodbye to our loved ones. If we have that opportunity to do that, I think it works out really well. And no, it just kind of spoke to me, and I thought it was just, yeah, it was just really, really well done, I think. It was really unique in a way. So, no, I'm really glad I watched that one. Dick Johnson is Dead.
Dick Johnson is Dead, available on Netflix. Moving on to number 7, right? Yep, that's where we are, number 7.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, back to you. What's your number 7 film of 2020?
Number 7. It's another Netflix movie, so I hadn't thought about that until just now. Really, I have to look at my list to see if there's any other from Netflix. But so far, so good for Netflix this year or this past year. And my number 7 was Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and as a lot of people know, this was the last performance of Chadwick Boseman, and Viola Davis is also in it. And is based, at least this movie is from a play, and so normally you can tell within the framework there's not a lot of different settings, but they make use of what they have in terms of the setting, and there's a lot of dialogue and conversations being had within this movie, and I think that particularly. Not only is Chadwick Boseman really good in this movie, he has a monologue towards the second half of the movie that is just extremely powerful, and it's heartfelt, and it's just, man, it just reminds you of how good of an actor he was and what a loss that is. And Viola Davis is transformative in it as well. She does such a good job in portraying this Ma Rainey. And the basic idea is that Ma Rainey was this singer from the South who goes to Chicago to record some tracks, and it's them trying to set up for this day of recording, and a lot of different things that are going on in terms of just getting everything set up and conversations that are not pertaining specifically to music, but just to life that happens between the members in this band, because there's friction between Ma Rainey and the character that Chadwick Boseman plays. So it's just this character piece, really, and it's just extremely well done and well acted and very powerful. So It's right there on Netflix again. You can just check it out when you have a chance, and that's my number 7.
All right. Number 7, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Yasha, your number 7 film.
He's so pulling a Yasha. Like,
I mean, like I said, part of the problem is that I didn't see a lot, so my well to draw from is very small. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this one out here, and it's absolutely ridiculous. But at the same time, I did enjoy this movie. I'm surprised that it made it so high on the list. But again, compared to what I have to pull from, it's a toss up the entire ride, man. It's just going to be weird the entire way, all the way up. So I'm just saying that. And I went and I got a little nostalgic with this one. And my number 7 is Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Oh.
That's right. I went Bill and Ted, old 1980s kid, born in the late 70s as I date myself a little bit. So I was definitely around for everything and remember a lot for the 80s. Seeing Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter play those roles again and just kind of get after it and just, kind of sit back and have mindless comedy thrown at me and just kind of enjoying how silly it really is. To hell with it, I enjoyed it. I thought it was silly. I thought it was fun. And, I was bummed that they released it on video because I was really excited to see what this would have pulled in the theaters, because this was definitely done for the fans. This is definitely something that wasn't, asked for by studio execs by any means, but the fans were like, hell yeah, let's do this. And the fact that Keanu Reeves was all in, who's a major blockbuster draw now, just makes it even better.
no, that was a fun one. Like, it was nostalgic watching that one.
Exactly. That's exactly where I came from with it, is just seeing him do the characters again and their problems and their, trying to be basically adults and not succeeding on it is just, it's great.
Yeah,
just really great.
Looking at that poster, it made me think, like, because you only have the names for Keanu Reeves and, I mean, forgive me for the actor's name. What's his name? That plays
Alex Winter.
alongside-
Alex
Winter.
Winter.
Sorry. I think it's unfortunate that the two women in the film aren't on the poster, because I think the best part of that movie was it Samara Weaving and I don't know the other actress's name, but
That's fair.
yeah, no, in my opinion, I
Kristen
thought they were the
Schaal.
best part of the film. Yeah,
Yeah. They were really good.
yeah, they were really good.
They were quite good.
They were
They
fantastic.
definitely stole the show.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
I
did.
think so.
I will attest to that, and that's something I wish I had mentioned and thought of that. But yeah, they definitely were an amazing aspect to that film. They really, I feel like, embodied the young Bill and Ted when they first came out, but they just
Right.
had a better sense of what music is than them. So it was, yeah, agreed 100%. They definitely stole the show.
As a whole, those two actresses, I think, are going to be some good up and coming actresses, because I've seen them in other stuff, and they're really enjoyable to watch on film. So I think we're going to see
Weaving
good
is
things
really
coming
good.
from them. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
she
we're
is.
going to see some really good things coming out of both of them in the next 5-10 years.
All right.
So that's one you've seen then, David.
That is.
Oh,
That's
hey,
right.
yeah.
Good point.
Got one.
I've seen that.
There you go.
I'm in the same boat. I didn't see the other ones either.
All right. Moving on to my number 7.
1 and 4.
1 and 4. We'll see how the rest of the list goes.
Yeah.
Um,
Right now,
Yeah.
the odds aren't great.
Yeah, so I am having to like constantly look at my list, because I did just make it this morning, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at my list too, at my number 7 and my number 6, and I'm like, man, these could be flipped, but I don't know, it's tough. My number 7 film is definitely one I saw more recently in my binge, and that is Never Rarely, Sometimes Always.
Oh, wow.
You seem surprised.
Yeah. Not in a bad way. I don't know. I didn't get a vibe that you really enjoyed it that much, so I'm surprised. But
No, I thought it was a pretty powerful story.
yeah.
This is the story of a girl living in Pennsylvania who needs an abortion, and she ends up having to travel to New York City, with her cousin to get that abortion. since she wouldn't be able to do it in Pennsylvania without help of a parent. And yeah, I mean, in terms of the plot, there's not much more to dig into past that. I think it's a very powerful story, showing how even when really absolutely necessary, it still can be so difficult depending on where you live to get an abortion. How polarizing the abortion debate can be. I thought the performances in it were, solid as well, just like all the films that I'm listing. Yeah, this is available right now on HBO Max. So if you're interested in it, you can check it out there. Very good film. That's my number 7 film. Never, rarely, sometimes, always.
It's a good choice. It's a really good one. Yeah. Yeah,
If
it
you
really
wanna
highlights a major struggle that I know a lot of women go through. And like the girl in this film, there are abortion clinics in Pennsylvania and in her area. The problem is that her area is a pro-life like area. Like that's the town she is, and like everybody there, you can tell is very pro-life. And so even within her family, like that's not going to be an option. So she knows that if she goes to a clinic, she has to have her parents' consent, and that's just not something that's going to happen. So she's the links that she has to go to. It's just
Right.
it really reflects the division that we have in this country when it comes to this topic. It's very polarizing, but I think it's a really good one to watch.
Yeah. You were going to say, Bobby?
Just that if you want to see the other end of the spectrum of that exact same concept, there's another movie on HBO Max called Unpregnant, and it takes a more lighter look at that exact same situation.
Okay.
So
Haven't heard of
total
that.
ends of the spectrum. Yeah.
Gotcha. Michelle, your number 7 film of the year, 2020.
My number 7, I thought it for me it was the performances that just completely stood out in this film, and the story topic itself too. But the performances were just so solid, and I just can't get away from it. And it's like I wish I could see this film the way it was done on the stage, and that film is The Boys in the Band. The acting in this, the story, the script, all of it, just powerhouse phenomenal. I mean, and now I can't think of his name because all I'm seeing is Sheldon Cooper.
Jim Parsons.
Jim Parsons, thank you. Jim Parsons in this, my God, like just phenomenal. Earlier this year we watched him on a show called Hollywood, and I thought he did a good job in that show, but this film just, wow. I mean, absolute powerhouse performance for him. Like the emotion, the raw emotion at times, like it's gutting to see. And no, I thought it was quite spectacular, and I think the storyline's really, really good. I definitely recommend it. I wish I could have seen it on stage, but I will take watching it on Netflix. Go Netflix. Good 2020. You saved a year, basically. Netflix. You saved a year.
The Boys in the Band, your number 7.
Yep.
Moving right up the list to number 6. Back to you, Bobby. What's your number 6 film of 2020?
So as we're going through our list, I'm kind of curious if anyone's keeping track. Has there been any crossover yet? Have we
No,
named a
not
movie
yet.
that's on someone else's list
think
yet?
so.
No, I didn't
Nope.
think so.
Yeah.
We're
Okay.
doing pretty good this year.
It's interesting.
Are
yeah,
you
for sure.
saying this is gonna be the first one?
No, I was just curious. It's definitely not. I don't think anyone's heard of this movie, but it was so good. Obviously, I put it at my number 6. Yeah, it's called Hunter x Hunter, and it's with Devon Sawa. That's probably the only name you would recognize from it. And he's almost unrecognizable as an actor in it. He looks different than what I've seen him in recent years. And it's this story about it's him and his family that live in the outskirts of the woods, and they are like fur traders, but there's a wolf that's been kind of antagonizing them, and there's this idea that this wolf keeps coming around, and now it sort of has their scent, and so it's kind of for lack of a better term, kind of hunting them. But there's a whole other aspect that's going on there that I can't get into because it would spoil the movie. But needless to say, it goes into some pretty dark and interesting areas, and I really enjoyed it because it did some things in it that I was not expecting, and it kind of knocked me on the floor with some of the stuff that happens, especially towards the later parts of the movie. And yeah, don't know that this would be popping up on a lot of people's radar. So I'm glad if you hadn't heard of it, maybe it'll be something that'll interest you. I know I can't say too much. I don't know that I would suggest watching the trailer because that may give some things away as well. But it was very enjoyable for the aspect of kind of almost coming from a horror movie aspect in a way. But yeah, I'll say no more. Is my number 6, Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, you said most people wouldn't have heard of it. I've never heard of it. So,
Yeah.
Hunter. You're number 6. Yasha, back to you. What's your number 6 film of 2020?
Okay, well, I know that everybody has heard of this film. I'm just going to throw it out there. This was my number 6, and this one kind of it hit deeply with me. I thought it was a really sweet story, and it was really emotional for me. I chose a Pixar film, and I chose Onward. It was about these two brothers basically going on a quest to get one more day with their dad, which being someone who has lost their father was just like it's just like a really touching moment to kind of really think about. But they added a lot of really, I think, necessary humor to soften the blow of what they're really trying to do when it came to this story. But it was a really fun story, and I think the reason I put that on my list and put it so high is because it really resonated just to have like one more day or one more conversation, for somebody that you really admire and love so much. And they're gone, and it stars Tom Holland, Chris Pratt, who I know has lost his father as well, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Octavia Spencer, a lot of really big name talent. But that's what Pixar does, and that's what Disney does. They draw those people down. That's why I chose Onward.
Very nice. Disney Pixar's Onward. You were number 6. Taking us back to me. My number 6 film is a film that, other than another kind of alternate version of this story, this is really my first experience with this story, and that is a movie that came out early in the year, and that's Emma. Emma is my number 6 film. Stars Anya Taylor-Joy, who, I would say at this point she's arguably more popular because of The Queen's Gambit that came out, more recently on Netflix.
Right.
Emma was just a really enjoyable watch. Something that was good to see early in the year before the pandemic hit. And actually, kind of as the pandemic hit, I think I was in theaters and ended up going to like a pricier VOD option being pulled from theaters, as the pandemic was kind of getting started. And I didn't see it in the theater. I ended up watching it at home. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. So Emma is my number 6. Really all I had to say on that one.
It's a solid choice.
Can I say something about it?
Please.
I think I might be a Jane Austen fan because I just saw Emma recently as well, and I thought it was rather delightful. And going into it knowing that it was the inspiration for Clueless, it kind of, I could see all those parallels as I was watching it, and just the settings and landscapes is really breathtaking, and the costuming is so beautifully done. It's colorful and vibrant. It just feels of that period. The story was good, like you said. Anya Taylor-Joy is great in it. I found myself really enjoying it quite a bit. Not on my list, I will say that, but it's an honorable mention for sure. I just wanted to say something because you did say a little bit about it, and I did enjoy it quite a bit.
Yes. Michelle, you were number 6.
All right. Well, I'm I'm probably gonna pick the film that everybody's gonna go, it's where on your list? And you guys are gonna be like, what? But I'm doing it. My number 6 is Christopher Nolan's Tenet. Yeah, this is, I feel like talking about this movie is like talking about Fight Club. Like, you can't really talk about this movie. What can I say? It's definitely Christopher Nolan doing Christopher Nolan's stuff. Other than that, though, no, it's
The Christopher Nolan stuff.
I mean, the way he tells stories, it's the way he shoots things, the way he films things, his color scheme that he likes to follow along. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Sounds like something that you would hear in like an honest trailer of this, like Christopher Nolan
Right.
stuff.
Christopher Nolan doing Christopher Nolan stuff.
Nolan stuff.
Anyway, sorry.
No, again, really great performances, I think, from Washington, Pattinson. Just really, really good. At this point, if you haven't seen this movie, you should just go see it. I think it's really good. It might leave you a little bit confused. That's okay. You're not alone. But no, it's definitely an enjoyable film. And yeah, it's like talking about Fight Club. I can't really talk about Fight Club. You just have to watch it. So yeah.
Can I
Tenet.
say something
Yeah.
about that movie? I have tried to watch it on a couple of different occasions, and I will get through it. Like, let me just say this: like, it's not what you think that I'm going to say, because I always usually start it with that and then say I was over it, and that's not what this is. I have started this movie a couple of times, and I haven't been able to get through it because they talk so soft in the film, and it drives me crazy. Like, it's like they're whispering, and then I turn it up, and then Christopher Nolan doing Christopher Nolan things, and and having the music just all of a sudden come through like a freight train. Like, it's like I can't, and now I can't even hear it, and now it's like that's shocked my eardrums, and then I turn it down, and then it comes to a scene of dialogue, and they're like, and I'm like, what are they saying? Like, I'm so confused. Like, what is happening right now? Like, and like I've rewatched the first, I think, 30 minutes of the film like 3 or 4 times, because it's like where they're setting the premise and explaining everything. But it's like, even when they're in the room talking, and it's like just 2 people, and I'm like, what is happening? Why are they speaking so freakishly low? It's almost whispering to each other. So I will get through the movie because I'm really excited to watch the movie. But at this point in time, I feel like I'm going to have to watch it on my phone and put the earplugs like right into my ears and hopefully not go deaf.
Just put the subtitles on, baby.
Or
Just
that,
read
yeah.
it, man.
I guess I could do that. Yeah, that sounds like something fun for an actor.
Just read it, sweetie.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I like you guys. I mean, I can't tell you, David, how important sound is when it comes to watching a movie. Like, I mean, you're a big sound guy in itself. Like,
Yeah, I mean the debate behind Christopher Nolan movies and his sound mixes is I feel like one that will never end.
much.
I mean, this movie obviously isn't our first experience with that.
Not gonna be the last.
At least it's our third. And yeah, I don't know. I definitely don't have an excuse for his decisions. I mean, I would love to have a sit down with him with a drink and be like, all right, man, like, come on, like, please,
what's the real
like,
deal?
like, why? Like, I mean,
Why?
other
Yeah.
than just what you would hear in a press interview, like, well, why do you do this?
Really?
It's one of those
So many-
things where it's like I want to trust in Christopher Nolan because it's like the guy is so talented, but then I actually found that this film, that aspect of it didn't bother me as much as other films of his, but no, it's definitely still a thing in Tenet for sure.
Okay, that's my only gripe. But it's like, all right, so it's like what I'll end up doing. Like, I tried to rent it, and then I couldn't get through it. Like 3 times I tried, and I was like, I can't do this shit. Like, it was just, I really just wanted to watch the movie. But now I guess I'll probably end up buying it and putting on the subtitles so that I can understand the plot story. Because if you don't, like, with Tenet, with his movies, like, you're gonna get lost. Like, I've had several people reach out to me. It's like, can you watch Tenet and then explain it to me, because I don't understand it. And I'm like, all right, yeah, I guess I didn't know it was like that, but now I understand that it's like that.
Right.
So
We made it halfway through the lists.
We
Wait,
are
now
halfway
did you say
through.
that? Sorry, because I know you had mentioned that before, Yasha, that your friends were asking you to watch it and explain it to them because they didn't understand it. Um, I had assumed, and maybe I'm wrong in assuming, that they just didn't understand the story and the plot. Did they not literally understand it? Like they couldn't hear it? Is that what you're saying, or they couldn't
no, they
understand?
couldn't understand the story and the plot.
Oh, okay, okay, that's what I thought. That's what I assumed. But then we
Yeah.
started talking about the sound.
Right. All right. Yeah, we are halfway through our list. We are on to number 5. Bobby, what is your number 5 film of 2020?
Is it back to me?
Oh,
Yeah.
wait, no, it's to. Yeah, it is to you.
It's-
Yeah, I'm so thrown off by
we're-
that conversation now.
We're
You're
going,
right.
Yeah,
it
we
is back
actually
to
are
you.
going pretty okay in circles. So
Wait, Yasha just went, right?
No.
No, I did.
Michelle
Oh,
was
okay.
this is my
fixing it.
number 6.
Okay. Okay.
Now it's your number
Yeah, that
5.
totally threw me off. Okay.
No, as soon as you said that, I did the same thing. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, Yasha was talking. It's my turn. Oh no, it's not.
Right. I don't know. So when do we normally count back? And I can't remember. Is it once we get
Oh,
close to our
like
number one and we-
recount everything
Yeah,
we've done
recap,
listed,
yeah.
like right before our number ones.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So my number 5, by all accounts, this movie it shouldn't have worked. It really shouldn't have. And the fact that it worked so well, and I had so much fun watching it. There's not too much to say about it. It's not a deep movie. It's not anything that's particularly great, other than just the fact that I just enjoyed it and had so much fun with it. And that was Bad Boys for Life. Will Smith, Martin Lawrence back together again after how many years? Yeah, it just ended up being, I think, correct. I could be wrong, but I could have sworn that it ended up being the top U.S. movie of 2020 in the box office, just because it came out at an earlier
Yeah.
time in the year when movies
Yeah.
were still available and to be seen in theaters. Yeah, it's just a lot of fun, and I just really was hoping that it would be, and that it would be able to keep that train going, because I enjoyed the other 2 movies, and for it to come out and do so well, and them to know that now we're still getting another movie. I was just really pleased with it, and it just couldn't tell you how much fun. I think I saw it maybe twice or 3 times in the theater. That's how much fun I had with it. So that's my number 5, Bad Boys for Life.
Bad Boys for Life. Your number 5. Back to you, Yasha. Now it's actually your turn,
Yes.
Yasha. What is your number 5?
All right, so my number 5, we have our first repeat on the list
Ooh.
right now, ladies and gentlemen. First repeat,
Yeah.
and it's not Bad Boys. It is The Gentleman. I am a huge
Nice.
Guy Ritchie fan. I genuinely enjoy like almost all of his movies. Just really have a good time with them. And the more that I watch this movie and kind of dissect it, I think I've seen it like 2 or 3 times, the more I really just started to appreciate it again and again and again. It was kind of like Snatch for me, and now I think Snatch is absolutely a brilliant masterpiece, and I love Snatch to the point where I can pretty much quote the whole thing. But the first time that I watched it, I was kind of like, oh, I'm not sure if I really am that into this movie. But the second time that I watched it, I was like, this is actually brilliant. Like, this is fucking amazing. Excuse my language, but it's like, and that's kind of where I am with The Gentleman. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed this cat and mouse, going all over mystery of where things are ending and leading in true Guy Ritchie fashion. I mean, the characters are very strong, very prominent, very big personalities, just about all of them, and a lot of them over the top. And I absolutely loved it. I'm here for it. Like, I would watch it again probably later on tonight if I could. Like, I genuinely enjoyed this film.
All right, The Gentleman, your number 5. Our first repeat.
Woo.
And yes, I've seen that one. So
Yeah.
All right, 2 for 6, 2 for 5,
two for, 6, right? Yeah. Anyway.
whatever.
Yeah. I guess moving back to me, my number 5 film, yet another film that I saw during my 2-week binge of movies. is it's funny. So, Bobby, before you started talking about your number 5, Bad Boys for Life, the way you set it up, in a way, that setup kind of works for the movie I'm about to mention, even though these movies are so different. Like, not even close. And I guess in the respect that this movie is very simple. And there's really not much of a plot in this film. There is, but not much. But it's just such an enjoyable watch. And it's such an enjoyable experience, especially during COVID, because it's such an experience you really cannot have right now. And my number 5 film is Lovers Rock. Part of Steve McQueen's Small Axe series, which is available on Amazon Prime. I will go ahead and say that sadly, this is the only film of that series I've seen. I really wanted to see Mangrove and the others, and I have not. It came down to like trying to fit stuff in, and like the night it was like, all right, do I watch Mangrove or do I watch this? And this one's so much shorter. So it was like, I'm going to go with this one. And just also based on the premise of this one, this sounded particularly interesting to me. Not that Mangrove doesn't, it does, but I don't know. I went with this one. And yeah, this movie telling the stories in, I think West London in the early 80s in a house party. And, just, that's really the premise. Basically, there's a house party and you are just experiencing it for the most part, though you are following along with a couple characters. Otherwise, there are scenes in this movie, just long extended scenes in this dance party where you're just experiencing the music and experiencing everyone else in this party experiencing the music. It's cinematically, it's something to experience in my opinion, and I really enjoyed it. And yeah, this is not the kind of thing that you get to experience right now during this pandemic, and maybe that's why it hits even stronger than maybe it normally would. I don't know, but again, I really enjoyed Lovers Rock. That's my number 5 film of the year.
I feel like it's been like a decade since I've been to a house party. My God.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a while. 2020 made everything seem a lot longer than it should be.
Yeah. Your number 5, Michelle.
My number 5, and I have to actually go to my list for a second, make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah, okay. My number 5, because this is about where things get a little jumbly in my list, where my list was, now my list has changed because the other movie popped in, so everything shifted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like things shifted, so now I'm like, where's this? Okay. So my number 5, and it is a repeat that's already been on.
Ooh.
And I'll be honest with you, I'm not surprised that I like this movie, but I am surprised that I like this movie because this movie is about a movie that I don't really enjoy that much. But this movie, my number 5, is Mank, which you can see on Netflix. Yeah, like I feel like Bobby was on your list, wasn't it? Where were we? Yeah, Bobby was your number 9.
Yeah.
You gave a really great summary for it, so I'm not going to get too much more into it. But no, I'm not the biggest fan of Citizen Kane. I do appreciate it for what it is and what it did for film. I appreciate.
I mean, based on the conversations we've had, it sounds like you come at it more. Your not biggest fan aspect is more because of how it's so considered like the best film ever made. You just don't see that. You think it's a good movie. You just don't think it's that good. Am I wrong?
I don't think it's that good. I think actually it's hard to explain, but basically Citizen Kane, like the way that Mankiewicz wrote the story and the way it plays out on film was revolutionary for the time. And I do appreciate that. And I thought that was interesting. And then, yes, the way that he shot a lot of the scenes and the way he got the shots that he got, i.e. the down shot, actually it's the up shot, he actually pulled out the sound stage and then actually dug through the concrete to get the camera down to actually get the up shot that he was going for in a few of the scenes that he did. So, no, in some ways, doing the shots that he did directorially, and then the script itself and the way the story unfolds, I appreciate it for what it did for film, because it really did start revolutionizing different ways that film was created, and stories were actually being told on screen. Things weren't just very flat and two-dimensional. Things really started getting depth at this point, because it was also right around the same time as Wizard of Oz. So between the two films, it really catapulted film as we know it into the way it is, to make it a lot more dimensional, a lot more depth, looking at it visually as well as storyline. Anyways, getting back to the movie I'm actually talking about, Mank. No, I thought it was done really, really well, and it kind of harkens back to the way that Mank, wrote out Citizen Kane in the style of kind of going back in time and then slowly revealing things with like inserts of current time. Overall, I thought the performances were really great in it, and I just think it was definitely a different way of looking at it. I already kind of knew the story of how everything went down in certain ways, because I've learned about it, but it was still nice to see on the screen, and I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this film. So no, Mank, it's on Netflix. I do recommend it. My number 5.
Mank, your number 5. Bringing us to number 4 on our lists. Bobby, back to you. What is your number 4 film of 2020, sir?
My number 4 is Christopher Nolan doing Christopher Nolan things, aka Tenet. I mean, not much to say more than what Michelle has already laid forth for us, other than it's just, I love the fact that Christopher Nolan takes big swings, and I can understand where some people have not had the most pleasant experience with this movie, but I just found myself really wrapped up in it. And this was actually the first movie I had a chance to see when theaters reopened back in the late part of summer. I had a chance to see this one in the theater, so it had that extra added effect of just being able to experience the sound and the lack of sound, for all intents and purposes, that was involved in the movie. But just seeing that type of level of action back on a screen felt good. But even just independent of that, I really dug this sort of take on a spy movie that also deals with time, and it just, for me, was something that I really felt like it resonated. And I get the criticisms that are against it, and I can understand and see where they come from. I just didn't necessarily have that same experience. I just enjoyed it on just the level in which it was, and trying to wrap my mind around it, even though to this day I still quite haven't done that. It didn't take away from how much I enjoyed it when I was watching it. And so I think I've seen it twice at this point. I still need to see it a third time, probably with the subtitles on, so then I can actually see some of the things that were being said, and maybe even get a better understanding of some of the things that were going on towards the later part of the movie. So all that aside, I still just enjoyed it, and really had a good time trying to go through this experience of this movie. And that's kind of what it is sometimes with a Nolan movie. It's an experience, and this definitely felt in that category. So yeah, there we go. That's my movie.
All right. Tenet. We have another repeat at your number 4. All right. Yasha, your number 4 film of 2020. Ooh, I think we lost Yasha.
I think he's frozen.
Thank you.
I'm here.
Or
Yeah.
he's-
Oh, there he
he
is.
Yay.
Sorry, guys. Technical difficulties on my end.
Oh, no
For
problem.
whatever reason, my router decided to just reset. So
Oh.
I was just literally, I looked right over and I'm like, oh, okay, so we're just going to turn off in the middle of everything right now? Like, so cool. Sorry about that, but I'm here.
Well, no, it worked out. You're back.
You're back.
Like, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're number 4.
My number 4 is another obscure one that I decided to throw out there. Shannon even watched it with me, and we both really loved this movie. Surprisingly so, it was much better than what I was expecting. And I'm talking about Sonic the Hedgehog. I can't wait to see the sequel. Hopefully they are having and planning to do that, because the first one was damn fun. Like, I liked the entire thing. And in playing this video game, I think that you would definitely enjoy this movie. And I felt like watching it, and it was ridiculous. It was silly, but it was sweet, and it was also some vintage Jim Carrey in there, which I really kind of enjoyed. And I forgot how funny he could really be. And you wonder how much of that was actually just him, or if it was him improvising or being directed to. But I genuinely and thoroughly enjoyed this film.
Sonic the Hedgehog, you're number 4. All right.
That's right.
That's right. You're number 4. That brings us back to me. My number 4 film, and I'll be honest, I gotta look.
You gotta look.
I gotta look at the list.
Gotta look at the list.
To remember, even though we're up at number 4, but I just want to make sure I remember correctly. All right, I got it. All right, my number 4 film. A Netflix film that sadly I saw later than I should have, and but hey, I eventually saw it. That is The Trial of the Chicago 7, from writer-director Aaron Sorkin, who those who know me well know that I'm quite the fan of.
Sorkin file.
A
Sorkin.
little bit of a Sorkin fan.
What do they call those?
Weird.
What do you call Sorkin fans?
Sorkin phonics?
Storkies.
There you go.
Sorkies.
You're a Sorky.
I like that.
I'll go with that.
Sorky.
Sorkophile.
I like
You're welcome, America.
Way off
Yeah.
topic.
You know, there's a good playlist on Spotify. Of,
Is it-
what is it called? Slow Sorkin Jams? Or what is it called?
No, it's just Sorkin
Sorkin
Jams.
Jam?
Cool
Cool
Sorkin
Sorkin Jams.
And it's from the West Wing Weekly.
Yeah, the West Wing Weekly is
actually really sweet.
responsible for making it. Basically, any like needle dropped music that was used in West Wing, they put in this playlist, which all that music has a very similar kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And whenever I hear like a song from one of those, like I think I heard one recently, I don't know where I was, and I was like, oh, cool Sorkin Jam.
Cool
There it
Sorkin
is.
Jam. The best is when
Anyway.
you not only go, ooh, cool Sorkin Jam, but then you go, name that episode of The West Wing it's on. And then you can name the
Oh.
episode.
Yeah, and I usually
It's
can
really
do that.
great. Yeah, I was going to say, then you think of the episode that it's in. Anywho,
Anyway,
That's insane.
Sorkin.
as for the trial of the Chicago 7, written directed by Aaron Sorkin. I'm already a big fan of his. This doesn't disappoint at all. This is really only his, I think, second feature-length film that he's actually directed. Definitely known more for his writing. And as much as I enjoyed Molly's Game, I thought Molly's Game was solid. I felt like this kind of story is even more really in his kind of wheelhouse and just fits his writing style. And I think it shows in this movie. Also, this was a story I sadly didn't know a lot about going into this, so I felt like I learned something. Not to say I take every movie as like fact for history, but I think I learned something with this story. I really enjoyed it. All of the performances in it, Sacha Baron Cohen, Eddie Redmayne, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Mark Rylance was, I think, particularly fantastic in this.
It was really good.
Trial of Chicago 7. If you haven't watched it yet on Netflix, if you're like me and you took way too long to watch this, I think you should check it out. I really enjoyed it. So that's my number 4 film of this year.
Solid pick.
Michelle, you're number 4.
My number 4 is the film that I forgot came out then this year and had made me shift and mix up my whole list. My number 4 has already been mentioned before, and that is Emma. Jane Austen's Emma with Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Anya Taylor-Joy, thank you.
Anya
Taylor-Joy.
Taylor-Joy, sorry.
Anya Taylor-Joy.
Yeah.
So anybody that knows me knows that I've read most of Jane Austen's books and seen basically every kind of film that has any Jane Austen reference to it, basically. And Emma is a spectacular adaptation of the book that it's named after. And it's solid from start to finish. You know, it's like you guys were saying, the color scheme that's in it, the cinematography is spectacular. The acting, just everything, just down to a T. I think this is probably by far one of my favorite Jane Austen adaptations. I did see a few years ago, and I actually think I have it, the one that Gwyneth Paltrow did in her version of Emma, and I never was the biggest fan of that one. It just didn't seem to, I don't know, it had kind of a weird feel to it, but this adaptation of it, I think, is just it encompasses the feeling of the book in the best possible way, and it's fabulous. It's wonderful. So no, Emma, I cannot sing its praises enough, and it's not that I forgot the film, I just forgot that it came out this year. But I definitely recommend watching it. It's delicious and wonderful.
And I meant to mention too, and I was talking about it, that the director is Autumn de Wilde.
Yep.
This is actually her feature length debut as a director as well, which is pretty impressive.
It's a very impressive out of the gate first film for a director to do. She did a spectacular job. I think it was incredibly well done and rich and vibrant, and just delicious to watch.
Yeah, I think looking at her IMDb, it seemed like most of her background is in music videos with some other stuff thrown in there.
I can kind of see that, just because of the depth that she would have for some of the shots and the way she would focus her attention on certain things. I don't know. It was really good. Even the dance sequences, that kind of makes sense for the ballroom scenes when they were dancing for the party. Anyways, no, really good. You guys, Emma,
you're number 4.
My number 4.
All right. It's getting real. We are down to our top 3. And Bobby, takes us back to you. What is your number 3 film of 2020?
My number 3 is a movie I just recently watched, and it's funny how that happens. And David, as you sort of mentioned, some movies that you kind of just barely watched had made your list, and that was certainly the case with my number 3. And it's called One Night in Miami, and it's directed by Regina King, and it's this story about one night in Miami after the Cassius Clay defeating Sonny Liston to get the title. It's Cassius Clay, Jim Brown, Sam Cooke, and Malcolm X, and they are kind of having this conversation about race and at their time in America, and them all being prolific in the different things that they do, how that still garners them some level of fame, but still it's fame from a Black experience. And it's kind of like their perspectives. And this was also done as a play, so you can see that there's some certain settings that are there that are expanded upon, at least for the movie's sake, than more than just one place. But it has that same thing as Ma Rainey, where there's a lot of dialogue, but it's meaningful dialogue, and done in a way that it doesn't feel sort of closed in as if it was a play. But there's just a lot of richness going on here, and the portrayals that are done by the actors doing these historical figures is so well done. And I think, just as Regina King's coming out movie, in terms of this being the first thing she's directed, she just knocked it out of the park, and it makes me look forward to anything else that she does in the future. And I've been a Regina King fan for a long time, since back on the 227 days when she was back on that TV show. So I've seen her career since it started, and just so seeing her come this far along, it's just such a beautiful thing, and I'm glad that I was able to see it and that it made my list.
One Night in Miami, that is your number 3. I know you have really wanted to watch that, Michelle.
I have really wanted to see that film for a while.
Not to say I don't want to see it, but I know that's really been on your radar particularly.
It's really been on my thing. I've been wanting to see it, and I'm bummed that I wasn't able to squeeze it in.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Honorable mention, or wish that I could see.
Wish that we could see, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yasha, your number 3 film of 2020. What is it?
All right, number 3. It's another repeat. We're getting in there. And I'm going to go with The Trial of the Chicago 7. I mean, I don't know what else I can say about this movie that you've already said, David, that needs to be repeated. This movie spoke a lot about events that I didn't even know that happened. I learned a lot about these characters, and I do deep dives when it comes to like factual storytelling, and I kind of like start doing a little bit of a history buff when it comes to them, just reading a little bit more and more and more about it. And Aaron Sorkin really delivers in this role, in this film, and the writing and the directing, and I just really enjoyed it. Like it's messed up on a whole nother level, but I really, really did enjoy this movie. So it's on Netflix, and anybody that hasn't seen it, I definitely highly, highly recommend watching this movie.
Trial of the Chicago 7, your number 3. That takes us to my number 3. What's that?
You.
Oh, I thought you said 2. I'm like, no,
you.
3, right?
No, you. Number 3. You.
My number 3. My number 3 has already been listed a couple times. I'll be the third one to mention this film, so I won't linger on it too much. My number 3 film is Mank, which, like I said, as you guys have talked about, tells the story of the writer of Citizen Kane and basically his experience in writing it and everything leading up to that. The film was directed by David Fincher. It's based on a screenplay that was written by his late father, Jack Fincher. It's funny because I haven't seen Citizen Kane, and yet I still thoroughly enjoyed this film. And it's funny too because if there's anything I've seen lately that, and I'm going to say what I'm about to say, and I am actually able, living in Florida, we are able to go to movie theaters. But there was something about watching this that really made me miss seeing movie theaters, especially old 35 millimeter prints of movies in a movie theater. Considering, Fincher goes out of his way to give you the experience of watching this movie in a movie theater, but at your home, mainly with the sound mix, which sounds like you're watching it in an auditorium, in a theater, not at home. With the cigarette burns that you see throughout the film. Yeah, another little touch. But all that stuff, like, at first I was kind of thrown off by the mix. I'm like, wait, why do we sound like this? But, I mean, you're quick to figure out, like, why. And it works. And, I just... And the story I just thoroughly enjoyed. Again, I'm not going to, kind of rehash all the stuff you guys have already said about it, but the performances are great. Gary Oldman, Amanda Seyfried, Lily Collins is in it, among others. It's really good, and it's on Netflix, and you should really check it out. That's Mank, my number 3.
What's surprising about me even choosing that is I'm not the biggest David Fincher fan.
Oh.
I'm not saying I hate on it. Like, I think I'm picky or
You even talked about
Gives me a headache.
You even talked about Fight Club.
David is
So
I know.
David is freaking out right now.
Oh, he's known that.
Oh, I've known. It's like a reminder, though. I kind of forgot. I'm like, oh, that's right.
He knows that. I don't hate on the man. Jeez, I'm just saying, like, some of his stuff kind of, back and forth on. But this spoke to me. I agree with you. Like, I liked all the little touches that he did. And honestly, it is a shame that we couldn't see this film in a theater. Like, it would have been really cool, honestly.
No, it would have been.
It would have been awesome. Anyways. So my number 3.
Your number 3.
Again, we're repeating a lot, but my number 3 is also on Netflix. I'm a Netflix girl tonight. Look at me. It's The Trial of the Chicago 7. Much like you guys, I think I didn't know that much about the situation. I knew that there had been a riot in Chicago for the Republican convention, but
It was
Democratic convention. Sorry, the Democratic convention. But I didn't know any of the details about it in any way, shape, or form. I didn't even realize that these guys went on trial for this. Obviously, I'm a Sorky, so That's happening. No, the writing, obviously, I think is spectacular. The way the story unfolds is just done so well. And I think actually I like Aaron's second film in his repertoire of directing better than the first one. And I'm not trying to knock on Molly's Game. I think that film is really good too. I think it's like he feels comfortable. There's something about a trial setting that Aaron is comfortable in, and he really sets it home. And no, this is his wheelhouse, and he's really good at it. So yeah, no, I can't really say much more. We've already said a lot, but no, Trial of the Chicago 7 is it's quite good.
Good pick.
Yeah.
Trial of Chicago 7, your number 3. All right, so moving up to number 2, and back to you, Bobby. What is your number 2 film of 2020?
So I want to see if you guys can, if I say something, if you can respond to what I say and call out what my number 2 is. So you ready?
Sure.
All right, sure.
Okay. What's his name? No, nothing.
No, I said because I know what you're talking about. And I'm blanking.
Well, I'll just go ahead and say it. It's
All right.
Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah.
And that is my number 2 of 2020.
And I should have picked up on that.
Yeah, man,
I
Michelle.
thought for sure someone would. Apparently
I think
not.
it
If I had
was
seen
your
it, I
I
probably
think it was
would've
your
gotten it.
delivery. I think it was your delivery. I was like, oh,
Wow,
man,
I couldn't just sort of. I
Hamilton.
didn't want to scream it into the mic either. So, but yeah, Hamilton. That one was one that I didn't get a chance to see until it came out on Disney Plus, and it was just this thing that everyone had talked about for so long, and I had all the time in the world in terms of being able to get ruined by it in some form or fashion, but was able to keep myself pretty pure going into it. I mean, I think I'd heard maybe snippets of some stuff here and there, but not enough to really still get a full context of what was there. But just seeing the way this was done, and I'm so thankful and grateful that Lin-Manuel did film this and be able to have it so that people who couldn't go see it, the stage play, be able to see it this way. And I know it's not as good of a substitute for in terms of being able to see it live and see it on the stage, but being able to see it in general, I think was such a good experience just because it's part of the pop culture zeitgeist at this point, and it's something that had COVID not happened, I'm sure people would still have been seeing this and then seeing the movie that it was supposed to come out in theaters this year, I think, before it was end up being released to Disney Plus. So yeah, just everything about it was fantastic. The music, just the story and the way it's done and told, just so great. And I didn't know I was going to like it as much as I did, to the point that I can't. I would say if I had to count how many times I've probably seen it, it's probably around 3 or 4 times at this point. So
Wow.
it's just such a good show, and yeah, that's why it made my number 2, or Hamilton.
Yeah, you're the guy that never sees things really multiple times, so that speaks volumes.
Actually, yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's
Like,
right.
Yeah.
Bobby doesn't watch very
doesn't
many
watch
things,
things
even
over.
twice. Like, I mean, like he might go
No.
see a few things in the theater a second time, but he doesn't really ever watch things over. So for him to watch something 3 or 4 times, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys know
Yeah.
I've been singing Hamilton's praises forever, and I took David to go
sure.
see it, and we saw the stage production of it. But honestly, like the timing of this during COVID couldn't have been any freaking better. Honestly, you know, Broadway's dark right now until I think they committed to this whole year, didn't they?
Oh, I hadn't heard that. I don't know.
Broadway's dark until I think the fall, if not.
I mean, I would
the
imagine
full-
they are,
If not
yeah.
the full year, I think they've committed to just being dark for the whole 2021, which we'll talk about a little bit later on tonight. So yeah, no, to get this in your home is something that many people many people don't get the opportunity to in general because it's so hard to get Hamilton tickets as a whole, even on traveling road shows.
Right.
But two, this year they don't exist. Stage shows aren't happening, so it's a big thing. But no, I'm glad that you liked it so much, Bobby. My goodness.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, we didn't get
Cool
the
to hear.
reference.
That's cool to hear.
I think it was the delivery.
All right, Yasha, your number 2 film of 2020. What is it?
I went with mindless action. I went with Bad Boys 3. Excited to see these characters come back on screen. Martin Lawrence, Will Smith, revisit these roles. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun movie. It's one of the most prominent ones that I remember of watching last year. And yeah, so it's Bad Boys 3.
All right. Yeah, already been mentioned by Bobby. Bad Boys for Life. Moving on to my number 2. I was curious, Michelle, do you know what my top 2 are?
I haven't really known any of what yours are
No.
until you kind of start talking, then I kind of figure it out. But no, and I'm really curious because there's a film that I think you enjoyed as much as I did, and I'm wondering if you and I have the same film as our number 2s.
Okay. No, we don't. I can tell you that right now.
Oh, okay.
Because the movie I'm about to list, you've already mentioned. So,
I was just
okay,
getting ready
well
to say,
then-
is it something that you already mentioned?
yeah,
Well,
this
then I
is...
don't know.
feel like I
So
know
this
what
is
it
something you've already mentioned. And yeah, because I'll say right now, I have a feeling I know what one of your 2 are, which I have a feeling is what you're thinking is one of my number 2, or one of my 2 that are left. But the other one, I have no idea what you have.
Okay.
But anyway, my number 2 film, when this whole thing with me binging films started over the past couple weeks, and I approached it by kind of going on the internet, starting to look at top 10 lists that were out there, which I mentioned earlier. Looking at top 10 lists, I'd look at one list and then look at another. I'm like, man, these are totally different lists,
Yeah.
different movies. And then I'd look at another, and it'd be very different from the other 2, and on and on and on. And eventually I saw one movie pop up a couple times that I had never heard of. And at first, when I started to make a list of stuff that I was like, okay, I'm going to make these like a priority to watch, it was not there. But then I ended up watching it anyway at one point by myself. And Michelle, you ended up watching it later by yourself.
Oh, no.
And this also is probably I'm trying to think back, it might be the first time I've had a documentary on one of my top 10 lists. I don't know that I've ever have. But anyway, my number 2 is Dick Johnson is Dead, which surprised me considerably that I enjoyed it so much, that it affected me so much. The end of this film,
It's powerful.
kind of out of nowhere, really hit me. Without like giving anything away, because I think the filmmaker, which I don't have her name right in front of me,
Kirsten Johnson.
yeah, she is a documentary filmmaker by trade, and when she decided to make this film about her father and the last years of his life, and the way she approaches it is definitely unique. When we get to the end of this film, which again, I don't want to spoil it, but it hit me.
It's
Even
moving.
I walked into the room when you were rewatching it and it got to that scene, and I was like, I gotta leave. It's solid.
is.
It's a really good film, and I can't recommend it enough. It's available on Netflix. And yeah, I thought it made sense. A couple of the awards. I mean, it was awarded Best Documentary Feature by the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards, but at Sundance it got U.S. Documentary Special Jury Award for Innovation and Nonfiction Storytelling,
Yes.
which I think makes a lot of sense.
Totally does.
Considering kind of what she does as she tells this story, which I'd never really kind of seen approached in a documentary before. But
It's kind of morbid and dark, but it's not at the same time.
not, yeah.
It's hard to explain. You just have to watch it.
You should watch it, and Yeah, Dick Johnson is Dead. That's my number 2 film. Again, I think it's my first time listing a documentary, but I can't say that for sure.
I think it's the first time that I can think of for you.
Yeah.
Might be the first time for me too, maybe. I'd have to look.
So yeah, now you probably know what my number 1 is, but anyway. What's your
I
number?
don't know.
You don't?
If it's my number 2, then yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. What's your number 2 film?
So my number 2 is a film that I hadn't even heard of until we watched it and the evening that we watched it, and it really connected with me in a way, and I really liked it. So I'll just jump into it. So it's called Sound of Metal, and it's about a guy who is a drummer, and suddenly he loses his hearing. And then the story just kind of goes on from there. I mean, he's got other situations kind of going on and underlying, but the main focus is about his hearing loss. But it's not all that it's about. There's so many layers to this onion to peel back. I thought the performances were really good, especially, and now I can't think of his name.
Riz
Ahmed, who I've always enjoyed the things that he's done, but man, he was really good in this. I don't know. I can't say a lot more. It's really good. I thought some of the innovations with sound were quite amazing as the film goes on. I can't recommend this film enough. It just kind of came out of nowhere for me, and I really, really, really liked it a lot. And I've liked this movie a lot. Like, I've been thinking about this film probably at least every other day, if not maybe every other day since we watched it. Like, I think about something about this film, some aspect of it, because it goes into relationships, it's so much stuff, but you don't even realize it. It's quite spectacular. I can't recommend enough. The Sound of Metal, or Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal, yeah.
Yeah.
Sound of Metal,
That's my
your
number 2.
All
right, so let me write that down so you know what we're talking about.
Oh.
What was your number 2?
Oh, my number 2 is Dick Johnson is Dead.
There it is. Sorry.
You're keeping track.
I am. All right, so I know.
You got this.
I got this.
You
All
got
right.
this.
Am I reading it or are you reading it?
Well, yeah, you'll probably read it because you've been keeping track. So yeah, we are there. We are at our number 1 films of the year. Bobby is going to be first.
Ooh.
So
all right. So
yeah,
I'll
if you
read
want
Bobby.
to read Bobby's,
Go to Bobby
9
on screen
so
or
far.
something. Go to Bobby,
Bobby on
Go
screen.
to Bobby's screen.
All right. you
Put
just
everything.
want him to sit there like and
He'll
listen.
be like, yeah, that's right. That is my number 4. No, I guess keep
right.
this up. I guess
You
it
got
makes
that?
more
Yeah,
sense to have all of us.
I think this makes more sense.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Fine then, whatever. All right.
Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Producer. Bobby's number 10, Love and Monsters. Number 9, Mank. Number 8, The Invisible Man. Number 7, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Number 6, Hunter x Hunter. Number 5, Bad Boys for Life. Number 4, Tenet. Number 3, One Night in Miami. Number 2, Hamilton.
And Bobby, your number 1
Bobby.
film of 2020 is drumroll.
Right. Well, I guess I have to talk about it a little bit before I.
Please
sort of
take your
give it.
time.
Oh my goodness.
Because I'm not gonna say a lot, honestly.
Chew on it
honestly.
for a little bit. Chew on it.
No, so here's the deal. Sometimes I don't know how you guys, when you're watching your movies, and we've been doing this for a while now, and I don't think at any point in time that we've been doing this that I've ever not been solid on my number 1. I think I've always known my number 1, and in this movie particularly, I think I had one of those rare experiences when, while I was watching the movie, I was like, this is probably going to be my number 1 movie of the year. And it's one of those things where it's not that anything else I just immediately pushed out. I left the possibility for something to replace it and move it down, but I just had that feeling as I was watching it, and then once it was done, that yep, it's going to be my number 1, and sure enough, it was, and it's Sound of Metal. Now, I got to see this movie back in, I think, November, I think it was. And I had been hearing about it prior to that a little bit. And so I was curious because it had popped up maybe 2 or 3 times in some things that I was listening to or reading. And so I was curious. I've liked Riz Ahmed since I first seen him, I think on The Night Of, that was back on HBO. I don't recall if he did anything before that, but that was the first time I had ever seen him in anything. And since then, he was so good in that I had just sort of followed some of the things he had been doing. So when I heard he was in this, I automatically knew I was going to check it out. And as Michelle said, he gives such a powerful performance in that role. And Olivia Cooke is great in it as well as his girlfriend. But somebody else that I want to shout out is the guy who played Joe, who was the person who teaches Riz Ahmed and is sort of his mentor. I think his name is Paul Raci. And he is so good. I could easily see him being up for Best Supporting Actor in a film for this year because he plays that role of a mentor so well. And it's almost natural. It's almost like you're not even watching a movie when he's in it and part of it. It's like you're almost just seeing a documentary just because of how well he fits into this role. I don't know if what he does outside of that. I'm not familiar with him as an actor. I'm not sure of his other credits, but it just really felt so authentic to what he was doing with that character. And I just wanted to make sure I just gave him some props as well. But as I said, I was sitting there watching it, and I was like, I don't know that anything else is going to come close for me in terms of being the number one for me. It was just such a powerful film, and just the performances and just the concept, everything about it is so good. The use of sound, and then the way the sound is not there to help you feel like you're in the character's shoes is just done to such a powerful and great effect that it really puts you in the front and center of what this actor and what the character is feeling and going through. And I just think that if you have a chance to see it, if you have Amazon Prime, it's something that you should make time for because it's just that good. And that's why it has my number one, Sound of Metal.
Sound of Metal again. That was your number 2, Michelle, and that is your number 1, Bobby. Good pick.
Yeah.
Moving on to you, Yasha.
All right, Yasha.
All right. Oh yeah. All right. Read them out.
Yasha,
Michelle.
this is your top 10 of 2020. Number 10, The Tax Collector. Number 9, Guns Akimbo. Number 8, Vivarium. Number 7, Bill and Ted Face the Music. Number 6, Onward. Number 5, The Gentleman. Number 4, Sonic the Hedgehog. Number 3, Trial of the Chicago 7. Number 2, Bad Boys for Life. And Yasha, you're number 1 for 2020.
It is more of a realization that I need to diversify what I watch a little bit more because this is compared to Bobby's list, I need to branch out just a little bit more. But my number 1, I don't know if this is any surprise. I'm sure Bobby could actually probably guess what my number 1 is. But my number 1 was a Netflix film, and I did a deep dive into this when they released it. I am so excited for the possibility of sequels. I love the world that they created. The actress who leads this movie has shown her diversity numerous times, and my number 1 is The Old Guard. I've watched this movie, I think, 2 or 3 times, and I enjoy the music, the directing, the fighting, the fight style, but the music particularly, I really, really just resonated with it. I loved it. I actually listen to it sometimes when I work out. I just think there's something special about it. So yeah, my number 1 this year is The Old Guard.
All right, your number 1 is The Old Guard. Well, I guess it's my turn now. Now
It's
you
your
get
turn.
to
You
read.
get to read yours off. All right. David, your top 10.
Tell me, what was my top 10?
Your top 10 of 2020. Number 10, Soul. Number 9, I'm Thinking of Ending Things. Number 8, Another Round. Number 7, Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Number 6, Emma. Number 5, Lovers Rock. Number 4, Trial of the Chicago 7. Number 3, Mank. Number 2, Dick Johnson is Dead. And David, your number 1 of 2020?
My number 1 of 2020 is Sound of Metal as well. I mean, you, Bobby, and Michelle have already talked about this movie a lot. What else am I going to add? Riz Ahmed is amazing in it. This was another one that when I first kind of put together a preliminary list of stuff that I was going to binge watch in the last 2 weeks, that at first I really wasn't on my radar. And then it got onto my radar.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad it did because it's amazing. It's quite good. Like you said, Bobby, if you have Amazon Prime, if you have access to it, you should check it out. It's a really powerful film. Riz Ahmed and Olivia Cook are fantastic in it. How losing his hearing affects his life and their relationship. And I mean, that's only scratching the surface. Yeah, I don't really know what else to add that you guys haven't already said. So, yeah, I guess talking about my number 1 is going to be kind of short and sweet. But Sound of Metal was kind of a quick determination. One of the few quick determinations when it came to my list, like where were things going to go. This and Dick Johnson is Dead were pretty fast to kind of find their place. But, yeah, Sound of Metal. That's my number 1.
Cool. I get that. No, I super get that. I knew it was going to be top 3 for me. Sound of Metal. Like I easily knew. I was like, oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. So.
All right. Do you want me to read yours?
I already had it. Already holding it. All right. Michelle's top 10 list of 2020. Number 10, The Gentleman. Number 9, Promising Young Woman. Number 8, Dick Johnson is Dead. Number 7, Boys in the Band. Number 6, Tenet. Number 5, Mank. Number 4, Emma. Number 3, Trial of the Chicago 7. Number 2, Sound of Metal. And my number 1 film for 2020 is Soul. Yeah.
I would not have guessed that.
Really?
No.
Me either.
Yeah. I don't know. There was something about this movie that...
No way would I have guessed that.
Really?
No way. I didn't think you were that into it after we watched it, actually.
Oh, really?
No, not at all.
Oh, that's hilarious. No, yeah. Maybe I was playing it cool.
Maybe you must have been.
Man. No, I really liked Soul a lot. Like the more I thought about it and just the way it was done, it's really good, and I think it speaks more to some of the thought processes that I have on certain things. And no, I really liked it a lot. I think the storyline is unique and interesting, and while I don't think kids are going to get all the depths of everything, it still has parts of it that they think that they would enjoy. But for an adult, I think it's quite spectacular. Again, I think, it does kind of harken along the lines of Inside Out, and it kind of has that feel to it, but obviously it's a completely different storyline. I also think the music is really great. I bought the album. I bought the vinyl.
Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did the score.
Yep. So yeah, no, Soul. I can't put it into words. I really liked it. It really kind of spoke to me this year. Like when I look at this year as a whole and all the films that I saw, and again, Sound of Metal is spectacular. But when I kind of looked at both of them, I was like, no, I think Soul is my number 1 this year.
Yeah, that's a surprise to me.
Really? What did you think it was going to be?
I didn't. You put Sound of Metal at number 2, and
threw you off completely.
I was like, what the hell?
Well,
number 1? What's happening?
Now I don't even know.
I don't know what's happening. So yeah, that threw me off.
Wow.
All right.
I never get to do that to you.
No, not so much. Yeah, that's our top 10 lists.
Woo! 2020.
I was gonna say we were gonna go ahead and just jump right into our honorable mentions and go, take a break, do some other categories. We've already gone off for quite a while, so I was kind of thinking of going ahead and taking a break right now. We're gonna take like a 5-minute intermission, And also, if you're listening to the audio version of the show, I mean, this is going to be the end of this episode, and the next episode will be coming soon. And we'll talk about honorable mentions and a bunch of other categories pertaining to 2020 and 2021. So we'll be getting to all of that very soon. But yeah, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back with our thoughts on 2020 in general and 2021 and what's upcoming. Sound good, guys?
Like it.
Sounds good.
All right, sounds good. See you guys in about 5 minutes if you're watching.
See you in 5.
See you in 5. All right, we are back. If you're still watching, thanks for hanging out. And
Fun
how's it going, guys?
night.
Took a little break.
Yeah.
We have finished with our top 10 lists, and we are going to jump right back into, well, first things first, our honorable mentions. I'm curious what everyone maybe was thinking they might put on their list at some point, but it didn't quite make it, or they just kind of wanted to acknowledge in some way movies they really enjoyed that didn't make their lists. I mean, I guess we'll go in the same order that the Bowl chose for the regular
go
top
against
10
the
list.
Bowl,
Don't go
man.
against the Bowl. So, Bobby, what were your honorable mentions for 2020?
Yeah, so it came right in, would have been 11, and then the rest are just in no particular order. But had there been more room, I would have put Promising Young Woman on there. And then the rest are Defy Bloods, Trial of the Chicago 7, Let Him Go, Greenland, which is probably another film that most people haven't heard of, Extraction, Mangrove, Palm Springs, and Emma.
Nice. How about you, Yasha? What was your what were your honorable mentions?
I guess he had no.
You guys there?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah.
You guys there? No, like
Yeah,
I'm,
well-
I'm really sorry. Like my internet just got really sketchy the past, just a few minutes, and it's like you guys are skipping in and out, and sometimes I can't tell when you've gone to me. So that's why I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'm just like, and all of a sudden it wasn't all three of you. It was just my face. I'm like, oh
Yeah,
shit,
like, oh, it's my
is it
turn.
my turn. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now with it.
So your honorable mentions, Yasha.
Yeah, if you can hear us, it's your honorable mentions.
Yeah. My honorable mention, I really don't have many since I didn't see that many movies that really made the list. I actually saw that my top 10 was, very different and almost probably looks like a 12-year-old did it. But my honorable mention actually, staying in the same vein of that, was Enola Holmes. I really like the Sherlock Holmes stories and everything like that. And I thought that was a really cute venture for that storyline, and it was well done. I thought it was a cute, fun movie. So that's why I'm putting that one out there.
All right. My honorable mentions. I mean, I'm just looking at my list and stuff that didn't make it. I mean, I never, you may have noticed I didn't mention Tenet in my top 10. I thoroughly enjoyed Tenet as a Christopher Nolan film. Definitely not my favorite Nolan flick, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, but it just didn't quite make my top 10. And yeah, Hamilton was kind of there at one point before I watched some of the stuff that I saw. It's one of those things, like you said, Bobby, that I think it's a gift that Lin-Manuel Miranda and that production team had that original cast filmed before that original cast went away. Nothing against all the other casts that have now come and gone to take their place, but to be able to always go back and see that original cast performing Hamilton on Disney Plus right now, it's pretty incredible. And then, speaking of Broadway musicals, the last film I watched as part of my binge, I watched it this morning, was David Byrne's American Utopia, which is available on HBO Max. And it's funny, going back to as well to being able to let things kind of digest. Like, I don't know, maybe if we did this top 10 list in a week, maybe that I could even see that one making my list. I don't know, because I just saw it this morning, but I will say I keep thinking about it. I really enjoyed it. I look forward to watching it again. It was just a really enjoyable watch. Watching these musicians perform on this stage where they are able and they have this freedom to just move around and do whatever they want, since they're using a completely wireless setup. Every musician is just able to move around completely freely on this very simple kind of gray stage with lights. And also watching them, I'm just envious of being able to have that experience performing that way. It just looks amazing. But yeah, it's directed, by the way, and produced by Spike Lee. And yeah, that's David Byrne's American Utopia on HBO Max. That's also one of my honorable mentions. Yeah, what else? The Gentleman, which I know was mentioned a couple times. I really enjoyed that. Another film that I really liked, but I definitely can't say it was worthy of my top 10, but I think it's worth mentioning that I watched was Bacurau, which is a Brazilian film. It's kind of a Brazilian, almost kind of a sci-fi Western, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And without digging too much into the plot, I think it's definitely worth a watch. And I was unsure about it right after I watched it, but it definitely sat with me for a bit, and I've thought a lot about it. And I definitely think it's a solid movie, but just not worthy really of being on my top 10 list. But I thought it was worth mentioning. And another film I really enjoyed this year, kind of a simple film, but just a good watch, was over on Apple TV Plus, which is On the Rocks, which had Bill Murray and why am I blanking on her name right now? But anyway, yeah, really good film, On the Rocks. That's over on Apple TV Plus. Those are my honorable mentions this year. What about you,
Nice.
Michelle?
My honorable mentions. So what is now number 11? It was at 10, but because I had forgotten Emma, it got bumped to 11, and that was On the Rocks. I thought it was actually really good. I really enjoyed it. It's an interesting story about a relationship a daughter has with her father, and I wouldn't say it's maybe a toxic parent, but he's definitely not the like picturesque parent that somebody would ever kind of envision. But no, it plays on their relationship and how she wants to really rely on him in certain ways. And I don't know. It was interesting to watch. I really liked it. I thought it was a really well done story. And it was by Sofia Coppola. That was her, fifth film? Sixth.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fifth or sixth from Sofia Coppola. So, but I thought it was really good. I also, honorable mention was Bacurau. With you, like, it's a weird one, and I kind of had to sit with it like a day or two, but I was like, actually, I think I actually could, because at first I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this film. I'm totally with you. Like, you watch it, and you're like, I don't know, and then I thought about it, I'm like, no, actually, I thought that was a solid film, honestly. Not quite top 10, but definitely solid. I also had Lovers Rock, which you had in your list, and Another Round, which I also really enjoyed a lot. And then Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, and then also Hamilton. So those are kind of my notable mentions for this year that I really enjoyed, but just not quite in the top 10 for me. But still, I highly recommend to anybody see any of those films. And some of them are on your list, so
Yeah.
they just didn't hit with me, I think, the same way.
And then, and one that I just remembered that you had on your list, Bobby, you mentioned as well, Promising Young Woman, which wasn't on my top 10. And I guess I would consider it an honorable mention. I'm still unsure about that one. Like, I enjoyed it, but I think with that one, maybe a little bit of expectations goes into play. I feel like I had heard a lot of buzz about that. And then when I finally watched it, I was like, this was good, but I don't know. At the same time, we saw that in the theater.
We did.
And I will say, it wasn't my best experience at that theater that I had ever had.
I would agree with that.
I think it was the best way I would put it in terms of presentation. And part of me has actually been interested to rewatch it at home to see if I would have like a different experience watching it where it kind of in a more controlled environment, I guess. Maybe I would enjoy it more. I don't know. I'm not saying anything negative about that film. I think it's a good film, but I guess I did not enjoy it as much as I was expecting to.
I think I was hoping for a little bit more. I still really enjoyed it. Obviously, it's my number 9. But like, yeah, I felt like it was getting to a point, but it just didn't quite push it. It's like it didn't really know if it wanted to be. It's like a dark film.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it could have
you touched
really
on that
gone
when
there.
you talked about it going to a darker place. It felt like it stopped short of something.
It does.
And I was expecting a little more out of it, and Yeah.
Not necessarily like it
that's the
needed
best
to
way
be
to put
like
it.
violent or
No.
bloody or anything. It gets right up to this point and then it stops pushing. And it could have pushed more, and it could have pushed the audience to a whoa kind of moment. I feel like that was why it was not lower on my list, because I'm with you. Like, the expectations for that film, I think, are really big right now. Everybody's really talking about it, and I still really like Carey Mulligan's
Yeah, she's
performance in it.
good
She's
in
still
it.
really great. But yeah, the story really could have gone to a place and made you go, "Whoa, hey now, that might be a step too far, but not, but maybe."
Right.
I don't know. That's my opinion on that one. But I
Yeah.
still recommend seeing it and come up with your own opinions on that one. So,
So that's my
Those are our
that's all of our
notable
honorable mentions. Normally we also like to talk about stuff we were disappointed about in 2020, and well, we can move on to there next and kind of whatever anyone else wants to talk about in terms of films they saw this year. But Bobby, I don't know if you want to jump in with were there any films you saw this year you found to be like your most disappointing?
Yeah, it's ironic because I like this movie. I was still disappointed in it. Could have been better, and that's Wonder Woman 84. I really don't have any other movies on my list that I felt disappointed by, because I think my expectations were pretty level going into them. And most of the movies that I saw, I think I rather enjoyed and just never felt let down by anything other than this one. I enjoyed Wonder Woman 84, but seeing as many problems there were with it in terms of story and the narrative and logic that's throughout the movie, you just see how it could have been a better film if they had I don't know, I would say put more time into it, but that movie seemed like it had all the time in the world from when it was first announced and actually came out. So yeah, there's really no really good excuse for it, but absolutely that's my main disappointing movie for 2020, and I didn't have anything else beyond that.
How about you, Yasha? Anything that you found to be like the most disappointing or extremely disappointing this year?
Oh yeah, let's dive in, shall we?
I'm gonna sit back.
Okay. So
I'm going to have a drink of my beer while you guys talk.
no, my list is pretty short. Definitely, Wonder Woman is definitely on there. I was pretty disappointed with that, and like Bobby said, they had pretty much feel like all the time in the world to try and get it right, and just to follow up really strong with the sequel. I actually put The Tax Collector on there as one of the most disappointing movies as well, even though it's in my top 10.
I was just
Eight
about
there, I thought that movie was wildly disappointing.
Where's your number 10?
I thought that was wildly disappointing. And then I guess it looks like if I think was surprised that this but Birds of Prey came out in 2020, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
if that's the case, then I was thoroughly disappointed in that movie as well. And Project Power, a Netflix film, I was kind of disappointed in that one where it was going and whatnot. I don't necessarily need to watch a sequel of that film or anything like that. It looks like that they're kind of trying to gear up for that at the end of that film. But yeah, I was disappointed in that. So that's my list of disappointments.
As for me, I was kind of looking through a list of movies from the year to try to think, oh man, like what's a movie that really disappointed me? And there's no doubt, I can agree with you guys. Like Wonder Woman 84, it's kind of like you, Bobby. Like I liked the movie, but yeah, could it have been better? Absolutely. So I would also include that as a disappointment for the year. In terms of a biggest disappointment, I feel bad saying this because this is a movie that actually showed up on one of our lists.
I already know what you're going to say.
But for me, I found it to be quite a disappointment because I did not enjoy this movie and didn't think it was very good for myself, and that is Bill and Ted Face the Music. Even though I really enjoyed the two female leads in it, I thought they were great as the daughters. Alex Winters and Keanu Reeves, the leads in this film, their storyline I found to be really just silly and it just didn't do it for me. So as I kind of looked through a list of the year, and I came across that one, I'm like, oh yeah, that was for me a huge disappointment. Really, in the end, that's really my only kind of big disappointment for the year. It's one of those things where, considering relatively speaking how few movies I saw this year, it was almost harder to find stuff that I found to be extremely disappointing. Because then, especially in the latter part of this year, as I binge watched stuff, it was like I was binge watching stuff that was at least good. Like,
Right,
I wasn't really watching anything over the past 2 weeks that I finished and went, oh God, that was terrible. And I definitely have watched other stuff, by the way, that I binged that I have not mentioned yet. And I'll probably mention in the next episode, or maybe later on in this conversation. I don't know, but anyway.
Well, I think it's hard this year because a biggest disappointment would mean that you would have to have had an expectation for a film. And since so many films got moved from 2020 to 2021, it's almost hard to choose a disappointing film because
there was so few to choose from.
There's so few to choose from for expectation wise. But yeah, I just have to echo what everybody's already said. Honestly, my biggest disappointment this year was Wonder Woman 84. Having said that, I still enjoyed the movie. I still liked it. It's got so many issues with it, and it really, really shouldn't have had any of those issues.
Right.
It's kind of disappointing. It is. It's disappointing. The film is disappointing in what it should have been.
Right.
I have to kind of agree with you on Bill and Ted a little bit. Like, it was kind of nostalgic seeing them together on film, but overall, like, the storyline was kind of eh. And not that I had major expectations of this film. The second one isn't even really that great either, but
I barely remember the second
exactly,
one. I think I saw the second one once.
But I will say, I definitely was kind of like, this is kind of not good. Yeah. Again, though, the two female leads, spectacular performances. I just kind of feel like it's weird because Keanu is a major actor, but I felt like he forgot how to act when he started doing this film. I was kind of like, Keanu, baby, you know how to act, sweetie. What's going on? No, I was not impressed with Bill and Ted, but I also didn't really have expectations for it, so I can't say it was a disappointment. It was just kind of not that great. But it is a movie that they've had time to sort out issues with this film. So, anyways, no, I think my biggest disappointment is definitely Wonder Woman 84. Again, not many movies to even have expectations on in this year, since so many of them got pushed back. But that one I had expectations for, and there was a lot that weren't met. Gotcha.
So one thing I probably would have asked earlier, and you know what, we'll go backwards. We'll just go right to you, Michelle. Things that you wish you could have seen that you didn't get to see before you listed your top 10.
Well, I will say One Night in Miami. I definitely wanted to see that film. Pretty bad, actually, and I really should have figured out a way to have wedged that bad boy in, but my personal work life has just been so crazy. Let Them All Talk is and now I can't think of his name. My brain just went. Sorensen.
Oh, wait, who?
Let Them All Talk is
Steven Soderbergh.
Sorry. My brain is done now. Soderbergh, and I like a lot of Steven Soderbergh stuff, and I actually did try watching Let Them All Talk, but then I had some personal things come up, and I wasn't able to really watch that film, and I'd really like to try to watch it again and to enjoy it and see if I can enjoy that film. I really did want to see Mangrove, and honestly, really that whole series that Steve McQueen did. I'd like to watch the whole, Small Axe?
Small Axe series, yeah.
The Small Axe series, because we did watch Lovers Rock, but I would like to watch all of them. I think they all would be really interesting to watch, especially Mangrove. And I'd like to see The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
I'm a big Universal monster person, and I was really interested in this film, but for whatever reasons, at the beginning of the year when it came out, I just didn't get to see it. I don't know. I
didn't realize you hadn't seen it.
Yeah, it just was one of those, it was like weird timing or something, and I don't remember why we couldn't see, I don't know. I wanted to. I was definitely curious about it,
Interesting.
I'm an Elizabeth Moss fan, so.
And I'll start off by saying that's probably my first. Like, I wish I had watched. I also haven't seen Invisible Man. I think for me, it's timing in the pandemic.
It really is.
It was
the
like-
timing was rough.
I mean, in one respect, everyone can go, well, hey, you could have just watched it at home. Like, we were all sitting around right at first. But at the same time, I think with the pandemic and everything going on, just mentally, like, I found that I personally ended up delving more into just like doing some gaming this year instead of like just diving into a lot of movies. And sure, I could have watched it, and it just felt like I was distracted from it by other things and just never jumped in. And yeah, I was kind of hoping to fit that in my binge, and it still didn't happen. And yeah, I really want to watch that one. Others that you kind of mentioned, Michelle, like Mangrove, I mentioned that earlier. I wish I'd seen Bad Education over on HBO Max. I'd like to see that.
Was pretty good performance by Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, and Allison Janney's
Yeah,
in that
it
as
is.
well. And then a couple films that none of us really can see, like Nomadland, which I guess was available as like a virtual kind of ticket in December, I believe, to some people. So it did officially get a 2020 release, but it's really not available for most people to see until 2021. And same goes with, what is it, Minari, if I'm saying that correctly, which is another film that I think got a similar release in December virtually, but really is not going to be available to most people in 2021. I mentioned them both because I've seen them on numerous top 10 lists for 2020 by people who were able to see them, but most of us cannot. So
Right.
I would argue that if I see them this year, there's a good chance you could see them on my 2021 list if they're actually that good.
Oh, you know what? I wanted to see Ma Rainey's Black Bottom too, and I didn't get a chance to watch that. I didn't have
yeah.
time for that. I did want to watch that one too.
Yeah. So, Yasha, did you have anything that you were hoping to see this year that you didn't get to check out? Anything comes to mind?
Definitely the metal one that you guys, everybody's
Sound of Metal.
everybody's list.
I highly recommend you check that one out this week.
The
It's so good.
yeah, that I'm gonna try and see that one, and then I don't know if I'm gonna be able to watch the Dick is Dead one. I can't remember the name of the title of the.
Yeah.
Dick Johnson is dead.
What's the one that you were having trouble with? Dick Johnson is Dead. Yeah. That sounds as all hell, and I was reading about that while we've been doing this show and whatnot. But those are like the metal by far is probably at the top of my list of things that I really want to watch and check out.
How about you, Bobby?
Promising Young Woman. That's another.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Bobby, anything you wanted to watch that you weren't able to fit in, even though I know you watch probably more than most of us?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know my list isn't all that long, just because I did get to see most things. But like you mentioned, there's two that no one was able to really see, which was
Right.
Minari and Nomadland. So those are two. The other one, I had heard so many good things about it, and I just really kind of came down to I didn't want to pay the price to watch it on VOD. I was hoping it'd go a little bit cheaper at some point, and that's Freaky, which is this Vince Vaughn movie where he switches body with the teenage girl killer movie.
Oh yeah.
It's like a Freaky Friday, but murdery.
Horror film, yeah.
That one looked good.
Yeah.
It looked cute. It looked good.
Yeah, so want to see that. Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. Like I said, I saw Unpregnant, which is the opposite side of that. So I wanted to see the more serious side as well. Didn't get a chance to. Another one was one that was on David's list, Another Round, Mads Mikkelsen. I wanted to see that. Just couldn't fit it in. And the last one I didn't get a chance to see that I was really hoping to. But again, it kind of came down to a price thing. It was $20, and I had just paid $20 to watch Promising Young Woman. So I was like, man, if I, throwing down another 20.
I think I know what you're going to say.
So, oh, really?
I think.
What do you think?
Is it News of the World?
Yep, News of the World.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to see it too. That's right. Dang it.
Yeah. And then it also
Yeah.
said it was in 4K, and I don't even have a 4K set. So I was like, oh, Do I
Yeah.
really want to pay $20 for the 4K?
Yeah, if you're not going to get
I don't
to
even
have that
4K
experience.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, we'll wait.
Do you guys think there was like a film that you saw that you could say was like, ooh, that was one of the worst films I've seen this year? And, and I'm bringing this up because this was kind of a small discussion David and I had. I was like, it's kind of hard to say that there was a worst film that I watched this year because I feel like because of our situation with COVID, you know, you get to be picky and choosy about what you watched, you know? Like, it wasn't just like, oh, we'll just watch whatever. I'll just throw whatever on Netflix, you know? Like, I really got to be picky and choosy about making sure I was watching decent content this year. And so I can't really say that there was a worst film. I mean, maybe Bill and Ted Face the Music, but I don't think there was anything that... I don't think anything was like, oh, that's officially the worst film of this whole year. It's bad, you know?
No, when you brought this up to me earlier, I had a similar reaction. I'm like, I guess I didn't see enough this year. Like, if this were a normal year where I'm trying to make an effort to see at least one movie a week, usually in a theater, you know, whatever like the biggest release is, even if it's maybe something that's not that interesting to me, but I try to watch it. That kind of routine didn't happen this year. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm having a hard time imagining or remembering a movie I saw this year that I finished and was like, God, that was bad.
Right.
Like, no,
Yeah.
I really can't think of anything.
I
I have
know.
one.
And obviously, there's got to be bad movies. And Yasha, you have one. What is
Obviously,
it?
yeah.
Coffee and Kareem.
That's right. I remember you saying that at the time.
Yeah.
That
Oh, I didn't
movie
see
was
that. so-
Absolutely terrible. Coffee
I-
and Kareem.
I did not see
Absolutely
Yeah, I didn't see
horrible. And because I like the actor who was in it, you know, and yeah, I mean, but it was a quick watch, but it's just wildly predictable. But it was terrible. I watched it too, and it was pretty bad, wasn't it?
I didn't see it, but yeah, from all accounts, it seemed to be pretty terrible.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a front
All right,
runner
well.
there.
We'll take it. Even though the rest of us didn't see it, we'll go. Yeah,
We'll go
that
with
sounds like a good pick. That'll be the pick for the show. Any other kind of things you guys want to bring up in 2020 before we kind of dive into 2021? Bobby, sounded like you were going to say something.
I have a long list
I-
of movies that I want to watch, and one hopefully that if they come out, if we get theaters open out here.
Oh, like this coming year? Yeah.
Bobby,
Yeah.
didn't
No,
you
I have
have a
ton of
thing?
movies.
Didn't you have a topic earlier?
I was gonna say there was something I had thought about that we had done one time before. Then it was the favorite scene in a
Oh,
movie
yeah.
Oh.
for the year. And for me, this movie actually didn't make my top 10 list, but I just remember the scene leaving an impression on me and loving it so much because I'm all about this genre of action. And you can't say action without saying extraction. And there was this scene where they're in this I don't know if it's a hotel or whatever, but it's a long tracking shot, and it's Chris Hemsworth just kicking so much ass, and it's so good. It's so good. I think I've gone back to watching not the entire movie, but just watching that scene a few times. It's just from when they're driving in the car and everything that's going on there until when they're in the room, and just the way he's just taking out people. It's so good. And that was definitely the scene that I just remembered all year and kind of going back to in my head.
I'm like looking down at my list to try to like joggle my memory because you brought this up like right before we started the show, and so I haven't really like thought on this ahead of time.
I haven't
But-
thought about it, but just now, the one scene that I could say that kind of stands out in my head that I was like, dang, this is really good. And it's a movie that's on your list that I have as an honorable mention. And it's from Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always. And I will say there's a couple of scenes in this movie that really are like, it resonates with I think it's a girl thing, maybe a teenage girl thing. And I was like, God, yes, the things that sometimes you have to do as a woman, as a teenage girl to do, almost like survival in a way. But the scene that really I think is is literally the scene that is the title of the film. And the girl is being asked questions about her sexual activity, but also her relationship with a boyfriend or any boyfriends or any men or
Anyone she's like sexually
anyone
active
that she's
with.
ever been sexually active with, and that you have to answer, either never, rarely, sometimes always. And watching that scene go down, and you can tell there's the question gets asked, and then she thinks that you could see the moment of thinking about it and going, yeah, I don't even want to. Not only do I not want to admit to you about what I know, I don't even want to really admit to myself that happened. And you can see the pain in her face, in her eyes, and she can't even answer some of the questions because not only would answering a question be answering it to this person that she doesn't really even know, but it's answering it to her. It's acknowledging that happened to her, possibly multiple times, and so that's hard. And that scene was like, for me, I was like, geez, yeah, it was a rough one, but it was really poignant, and it was really great acting, and it was just really well done. And it's just a still shot just of the girl on her face. The questions are being asked, and all you see is her and her reactions. It's really, really, really good.
No, it's a good pick. Yeah, I don't know that I have one. I'm having a hard time thinking of a particular scene that just really did it for me, or I thought
think
was amazing.
probably the one that Dick Johnson's dead, the end there.
I mean,
that one gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, I can't really talk about it. It's like the end of the film.
Yeah, it is kind of
I don't want to spoil
apex.
it. I mean, I have things I could talk about that aren't in film and TV that happened this year that were pretty amazing, and you probably all can imagine what I'm thinking of. But talking about movies,
Oh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yasha, do you have anything?
Anything, Yasha?
No, I don't think so.
I don't know if he
I
can.
don't know if you can hear us.
No, there was there's a couple of scenes in The Old Guard because I like that movie so much. I think one of the scenes that my favorite scenes was the very end. And if anybody's seen it, I don't want to really necessarily give away spoilers. Just a lot of the fight scenes in that show. I found them really fun to watch. So it's nothing that's groundbreaking or anything like that. It's just fun movies.
Yeah. How about 2021, where we've got a bunch of movies that were supposed to come out in 2020, and now we're going to come out in 2021. So there's probably stuff we're going to list that we listed last year on our most anticipated stuff for 2020 list.
That is so weird.
And now we're going to say them again for this year, crossing our fingers that they actually get released.
That is so weird to think about.
Yeah.
Think about that. We thought we were seeing this year, but we're not.
No, and it's been, with as crazy as this year has been, I think I have found it's easy. It has been easy to just not, I don't know, with as crazy as it's been, I found it hasn't been that hard to be super upset that there's things we should have seen, for example, when we're just talking about movies that we haven't been able to see yet. And there's been other stuff I was hoping to experience this year I didn't get to experience that, any other year, if I just weren't able to go to Dragon Con, I probably would have been really, really bummed about that. But this year it was hey man,
Right.
it's fine.
It
But
is what it is.
I think I saw I was looking through a list and I'm yeah, Eternals is coming out it's still coming out in November of 2021 when it was supposed to come out in November of this year, and it's hard to grasp that. I'm wait, I should have seen that by now. It's crazy to think I should have seen that when now it's just accepted in my brain that I'll see that eventually, but not yet.
Yeah,
When I think back to the things that we should have all watched already and we haven't watched, that's where it kind of sets in, and man, what a fucked up year we've had.
yeah. Like Black Widow. We should have already seen that.
Black Widow, of course.
Yeah.
But
No Time to
I
Die.
think what bothers me most about stuff like that is, yeah. I think what bothers me most about that is just like, you sit there and you really think about it. It's fine to be waiting for the movie, but these movies are already done. Like, it's different when you're waiting for it to be made and it's like, oh, it's in production and they're doing, acting and they're doing special effects or whatever. But these movies are literally just sitting in a shelf, and maybe a handful or a couple of dozen people have already seen them, but they're just waiting to be released. And that's kind of like what bums me out, is that, like, I mean, the Eternals, like you just said, the Eternals is done. Like, there's been no news on that. It's just waiting to be released. They're not going to eat the cost of like what they spent on that movie to do a live stream, bullshit campaign to try and get it on Disney Plus. They're not going to do that. They're going to put it in a theater where they can actually make some money.
yeah,
Same thing with like Black Widow and, No Time to Die, like, Top Gun 2. Like, these are all movies that should have come out this past summer that we should have already seen. And we're just literally waiting to have them released, and they're done. There's no news on them being, oh, we re-edited this or we changed this. And I was like, no, they're happy with what they have and it's ready to go.
Like,
That's what sucks.
it's in the can. It's just sitting on a shelf,
Yeah.
just waiting for people to watch it.
That's what was shitty about Wonder Woman, is just waited and waited, and we knew that it was done and we knew that it was ready. Like, and we're just waiting for it to come out.
yes. But and one of the crazy things too with Eternals, like a movie that we should have seen, but yeah, we have not even seen anything for. Like, nothing. It's not like Black Widow where we've seen trailers for a while now and then it just keeps getting pushed back. Like, we have a movie in Eternals where not only should we have seen it, but we haven't even seen anything for that
Not
movie.
a dang thing.
Other than what, like, kind of
Yeah.
concept kind of looks at some of the characters, right? That's really it. It's crazy to think.
No trailers,
Well,
no
it's like-
nothing.
No, nothing.
Well, it's funny to think, like, No Time to Die, the weekend before we're supposed to release, Daniel Craig was on SNL promoting the release of the film.
I mean, he was scheduled to promote it, yeah, but then
Like, that was the whole thing.
that was the whole point.
That was the whole point.
and now it was going to be this spring, and now it's been pushed back to the fall again. right?
Yeah.
Or
Summer?
I think it's the fall, right? I don't know.
I think it's fall.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that's a movie we should have seen months ago, And then, like, for me, like, I was really looking forward to A Quiet Place too. And
Yeah, that too.
yeah, like, that's a movie that just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, and yeah, it's been a weird year. So many ways. So
I mean,
many
I'll dive in and mention. I mean, if the obvious, I don't think it's going to come as any surprises. I'm still most excited probably for Dune this year.
Oh yeah, it's mine.
Which I mean, I guess God forbid that the pandemic is still bad in the fall, but I will at least get to watch it home. Apparently, well, no, I guess that's one of the ones that is not going to go to HBO Max.
That's not happening.
But anyway, Dune is way up there, and not only that, but also Last Night in Soho, being an Edgar Wright fan like I am, his next film is due to come out this year, so I'm excited about that. You mentioned No Time to Die, Michelle, and I mean, yeah, being a Bond fan, of course, I'm pumped for that one. We talked about Black Widow, Eternals, Mission Impossible 7 is due to come out this year.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited about. Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh yeah, that actually wasn't that supposed to come out this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was supposed to
That
come
was
out
actually
already. I
supposed to
think.
come out.
Last year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So many movies.
The Matrix 4, I think, is due out in December of 2021.
Oh yeah, Morbius, right?
Morbius is in the fall, but that's honestly not on my list. I really don't care. Sorry, I don't. In the Heights, I'm looking
yeah.
forward to seeing.
I do want to see.
I think in
that.
August we're supposed to see James Gunn's version of the Suicide Squad, which I'm really only excited about because James Gunn directed it. So that definitely piques my interest. So,
Yeah.
those are the things on my list. Bobby, what about you? Anything you're most excited for this year?
Yeah, I'm going to probably duplicate some of the ones you mentioned, but and I shorthand some of it because I just put all the Marvel stuff and any DC stuff because there's a lot of it. I'd say for sure of all the comic book movies coming out next year or this year, sorry, my most anticipated probably has to be Spider-Man 3 at this point. Let's see what else. Mortal Kombat. I'm looking forward to seeing that. King Kong versus Godzilla. A Quiet Place 2. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Top Gun Maverick. Mission Impossible 7. The Matrix 4. Candyman. Antlers. And Coming to America. So that's my most anticipated for this year.
Well, you said Antlers. What is Antlers?
Man, I was looking forward to that. It's some sort of horror movie, and I remember seeing the trailer for it a few times
That does
before
sound familiar.
we couldn't see anything in theaters anymore. And I
about the
tried not
house.
to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there. It's hard to get into it too much because there's some
show
it
you the
seems
trailer.
almost spoilery in the trailer, but it's definitely a horror movie that would be right up my alley in terms of those sort of out there weird ones. It looks like, but yeah, you should check out the trailer for it when you have a chance to.
All right. Michelle? Anything you're-
I mean, mine's a lot like yours. Yeah. No Time to Die. Big Bond fan. Gotta watch that. Dune. I mean, Denis Villeneuve is my guy. Like, I've got to see this. And I really don't even care that much about Dune, but his films are so spectacular and I love them so much. So for me, that's a big one. Quiet Place 2. Wes Anderson's French. I forgot what it was called now, the title of it. Anyways, it's coming out. That's gonna be good. Suicide Squad. I'm interested again, just like you, only because of the director James Gunn. I actually do kind of want to see Jungle Cruise, which might be kind of weird, but I actually think it could look kind of cute. Now I've got to look for it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? In the Heights. I do want to see. Oh, here it is. French Dispatch. Yeah, because I'm a big Wes Anderson fan, so like that's a big one for me. I'm looking forward to that. I mean, yeah, basically your list, honestly. I mean, all the things that we were supposed to, all the things,
seeing
everything.
movies in theaters without masks and stuff like that? Sure.
No, I don't think we're going to get to watch them without masks on. I think
said
that's
I said
happening.
eventually. I didn't say it was going to happen this year.
I was going to say 2021 is going to be a mask on kind of year again.
Yasha, anything you're looking forward to this year?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of my list echoes kind of like a lot of what you guys said. Like I'm interested in seeing Dune, but at the same time, I'm not diehard like you guys are. I know you're super excited about that, but I'm not. I'm interested in seeing Tom and Jerry. That's nostalgia reasons. Nobody for sure. Coming to America. No Time to Die. Quiet Place 2. Definitely interested in seeing Free Guy. I love Ryan Reynolds. I think he's absolutely hilarious. So that was something that we should have seen already as well.
Yeah. Forgot about that one.
F9, Furious 9. Not sure why I'm looking forward to seeing it because they're basically the same movies over and over again, and I think they're
I
just
don't
getting more and
either.
more ridiculous. But I'll probably watch that. In the Heights for sure. Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Top Gun. Interested in seeing the Space Jam sequel. Suicide Squad for sure. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, just because I like I said, Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson together again with Salma Hayek. Yes, please. Candyman, absolutely. The Many Saints of Newark. I definitely want to see that. I was a huge Sopranos fan, still am. Morbius, Addams Family 2, the animated one that they did just a couple years ago, was actually quite funny. I enjoyed it, so I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they do with the second one. Halloween Kills. I like the fact that the story continues and they've gone a little bit more to a dark, so I'm looking forward to that. Mission Impossible 7 for sure. Definitely Eternal, Spider-Man, Matrix, and I think even John Wick is supposed to be coming out around that time as well. They just haven't released a date, but for a while it was rumored John Wick sequels was supposed to come out the same day as the Matrix sequel. Excuse me. But I mean, I don't know if that's going to be pushed a little bit further because of everything, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing whatever John Wick sequel they do because I love those movies. I think they're fantastic. So that's just the list that I did just now and just kind of went through really quickly.
I think that John Wick got pushed to 2022, I want to say. because I thought I could be wrong on this, but I
Oh
thought
no, I could be
it was
wrong.
because
I could be wrong.
well, I mean, on my reasoning, I thought maybe they were saying something about filming the next one and then the one after that back to back, and so I think that was the deal. I can't remember.
Yeah, that
for
would
sure,
make
but
sense. They just knock them all out and film.
yeah.
Gotcha. Well, those are the stuff we're looking forward to next year. I know, Bobby, you had an idea for us. I don't think we've really done this kind of thing before, having like a New Year's resolution for this upcoming year. And
But
maybe,
for like film and TV.
maybe you kind of, I don't know if you want to explain a little more behind like your idea behind it.
Yeah, so my thought was, of course, everyone knows of doing New Year's resolutions, and it's something that you say you're going to do at some point in the year that you wanted to do and hadn't gotten around to. So it's pretty much the same concept. It's something in TV or film that you've been meaning to get around to and just haven't, and so you want to have a resolution to say, this year is the year I'm going to do it. I'm going to do blank. And then that's sort of the idea behind the podcast resolution of it.
All right. Well,
I'm actually good on that.
you good on that? All right. Well, why don't you go first? What's your resolution
No.
this year?
So I kind of thought about it, and so my resolution for me for this year, and it really kind of came about because it's something that started in 2020. But the National Theatre in London has been streaming their performances because they filmed them, and they've actually done a few performances without audiences, and because they've only had like 2 or 3 actors on stage, and they've filmed them, and then they're streaming them. You just pay you can either do a membership or you can pay per play, but there's a number of amazing plays that are streaming, and I keep seeing them pop up on their social media that I follow. I'm like, God, I'd love to watch that. God, I'd love to watch that. Oh, that looks so good. Oh, that's got so and so in it. Like really great actors doing these plays, and it's plays that have happened in the last, just before COVID, but then also, like I said, there's a few that they've done during COVID, and then they're streaming them, and I'm like, dang, I gotta make time for that. And I think that's the thing I want to do while they're allowing this and they're continuing this, is to try to stream some of these plays that are accessible. So it's not really a film or a TV industry, but more, I guess, the play, the theater in actuality is what I would like to try to resolve myself to doing this year, is to do some more theater, but obviously at home, but to see some really, really fantastic art that's getting done that I'm just not watching, honestly.
Right.
And the downside is like, you can do streaming for Broadway shows and stuff, and anything else that's filmed. There are things out there, and the money is going to not just the major role players in Broadway shows, but to everybody else, the riggers, like all these people have all lost their jobs, and they aren't getting their jobs back, it looks like, this year. They're the background actors and dancers and performers, the people that do the set design, the costume design, everything in all this stage, and these people are they got nothing. They're working at Starbucks if they've got to right now. And so if you pay to watch these things online and stream them, the money does go to their funds that help these people, survive and pay their bills and keep a rent in New York City and Chicago and crazy places like that. That is insane. So I'd like to try to watch more of that and support more of that community this year.
Nice. I guess I'll jump in and say, for me, my resolution, I know it seems it's kind of a running joke of how much I don't watch sometimes throughout the year lately. And it would be very easy for me to just go, hey, I'm just going to watch more this year, which I've just probably said, if you go
Every
back
year.
and listen to top 10 shows, like for the past 5 or so years, every year I say that. I go, this year I'm not going to binge watch everything right at the end. I'm going to watch everything throughout the year. Does it happen? I mean,
No.
I have a busy life, I guess. I don't know. I don't really have, I have excuses, but I'm not going to go through them all. With that said, kind of along the lines of, I'm going to watch more throughout the year. I'm going to make it a little more specific. And I guess the idea behind this is that we're going to kind of be on top of each other about it. It's not like this is a game or a contest, but for me, I do intend and will watch probably, at least one movie every week. Especially weeks that we're doing a podcast. I say that. I mean, if I'm on vacation for a week, I'm not going to probably watch something. But weeks we're doing a podcast, which are basically every week, I do plan and will watch at least one movie a week, hopefully more than that. But that is something that's kind of my big New Year's resolution for the year is I will be watching one movie a week from here on out.
I mean,
just a kind of similar to what we were doing when we were going to movie theaters every week. I basically was, and this year, forget it. Like even though there was a lot of stuff available, it was easy to feel like there wasn't. And then as we got to the end of the year and it was like, okay, it's top 10 show time. And Bobby, you brought it up. You're like, hey, I'm really excited for the top 10 show. And the other three of us were like, why? What have we seen? I start digging around and I'm like, yeah, actually a lot has come out this year. It's a lot of more indie level stuff. Because, of course, studios are holding back the bigger films for a time when they can make money on them. But, yeah, there was still plenty to watch this year. And even though I was distracted, we were all distracted by everything going on, not just the pandemic, but politics and just absolute batshit craziness. I found that maybe I should have ventured into a fantasy world when I wasn't and watching stuff throughout the year. Maybe I would have been a little more mentally healthier this year if I had been doing that. And that's probably something I'm going to try to do more this year. So this year I will at least watch one movie a week, if not more, especially weeks that we're doing the podcast, which are basically every week. I will definitely watch one movie for every episode. That's my New Year's resolution for this year. Yasha. Oh, go ahead, Bobby. It sounds like you want to say something.
I guess I was going to give mine, but...
go ahead, please.
Sure. This is something that it was the first thing I thought of when I thought about doing this for the podcast, because it's something that, like you said, David, it's not like we're making a specific contest, but I think we'll hold each other accountable and you check in with each other and see how that's going. In your case, it will be very obvious as to if you're keeping up with it or not. In my case, maybe not so much, but it's definitely something that I wanted to give myself a goal of and being able to do. And that is before the end of this year, before December 31st, 2021, I want to have finished all of the West Wing. And it's something that I've gotten away from. So I want to jump back into it and be able to have finished all the seasons before the end of the year.
Oh, can't argue with that resolution. I mean, no, it's a solid pick there.
A solid resolution, Bobby. You got this.
Yeah, I do. I think I do.
One day, he's going to be listening to cool Sorkin jams on Spotify.
Yeah.
And he's only going to go, hey, now, I know that song. I know the episode number and the title.
Right?
You're going to be like, season 2, episode 5. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for the day.
Yasha, what's your resolution for this year?
I guess trying to try and keep it. It's not very fancy. It's not, it's pretty simple. One thing that I'd like to do is maybe take a little bit of a closer look and get back to watching some independent films. That's something that I've kind of stepped away from. Some of the lower budget films where the writing is probably much more interesting, and just kind of pay attention to some of those dramatic a little bit more. But a big one for me is I want to actually. I've thought about this a lot, but I don't know if I'll be able to do it. But I'd like my way through the AFI list, the top 100. There's a handful of movies that I have seen that I know that they're that I've seen them, and they're almost like common knowledge when it comes to watching, especially if you're a film buff. But there are films on there that I've never seen, particularly like Casablanca. Never watched Casablanca, and I feel like that's something that I should have in my back pocket as well. So just doing that, like, because some of these movies are so well written and so classic in the sense of that, but definitely want to get more into the independent and some of the lower budget films that are more heavily built around character development and directing and writing, opposed to just blowing stuff up and fighting and stuff like that. But definitely maybe just start making my way through the AFI's top 100 and see where that takes me.
I think that's a really good resolution for you because like you always kind of joke, like you always watch all the action stuff and it shows in your top 10 list. And you say it's like every year. And then we always talk about like random stuff that we watch and you're like, man, I gotta make more time for that. So I'm really glad that like that's part of your resolution. But the AFI list is a really good one too. Like years ago, I kind of started trying to knock stuff off of that and I've seen a lot of it. So I'm looking forward to hearing you talk about things that are on there. Casablanca, Philadelphia Story, things like that. It's going to be really good to get your
I haven't decided. Maybe you guys
watch that one.
I haven't decided. Maybe you guys can help me with how I should do it. I'm deciding whether I should start on number 1 or if I should start on number 100 and work my way down.
My recommendation would be 100 and work your way down. And I say that because that's kind of where I kind of started. And I feel like it puts you 100 starts doing some more obscure stuff that you might not have seen and you might have to look for. And then as you get closer, you're going to start going, yep, seen that. And you can kind of skip over a bunch, getting closer to one. That's going to be a lot more like, oh yeah, skip. But if you start up kind of in the higher end, you're going to be like, oh wow, yeah, I haven't heard of like these 30 of these. So that's my recommendation.
Well, that sounds like a good idea. I think that's all of our resolutions. Is there anything else anybody wanted to talk about pertaining to 2020, 2021, the upcoming year? Anything else before we wrap this up?
I'm happy the dumpster fire that is 2020 is over. And
is it though? Is it really over?
We'll be soon enough this week. Anyways, no, I'm looking forward to simpler things like getting a certain virus shot and other people getting the same thing and vaccinating and going out and being able to sit in a theater and enjoying that. And you guys in California going to a theater and sitting down inside of a theater with a mask on, but still in the theater. Like little things like that, I think are really big, lofty goals still. Right. And I look forward to having them happen more.
I would agree with that. Anybody? Sorry, Bobby?
I was just going to say, I mean, those are definitely true sentiments. And as you mentioned, David, that there was a lot of opportunity to see a more independent films this past year because of the fact that the studios were holding back the blockbusters. So it was nice to be able to see those movies, mostly from the comfort of my own home. That being said, I am looking forward to getting back into the theater because I want to see and have that blockbuster movie experience in the theater. But I'm also looking forward to the wealth of movies that are going to be coming out on streaming. It was a couple days ago, Netflix released a trailer saying that they'll have a new movie every week this year.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of content that looked good from the trailer from big name people. Whether the movies will actually be good remains to be seen. But the fact that it's there, we have that. And then HBO Max had said that they're going to have all these different movies coming out on their streaming service this year as well. Some big movies. One in particular that I'm thinking of that I want to see. I didn't put it on my list, but it's the one with Denzel Washington and Jared Leto and Rami Malek, I think. is coming out on HBO Max here soon. I want to see that. And so there's a whole bunch of movies there. And then on Disney Plus, WandaVision just came out on Friday. So now the Marvel train is starting to roll on Disney Plus, and we'll right after that ends, we'll be pretty much going right into Falcon and the Winter Soldier and all the other different stuff that'll come out. So I feel very much like this is going to be a big year for the film and TV, and I'm on board waiting to see everything that comes our way, one way or the other.
We should all just quit our jobs and get paid to watch this stuff at home.
God, I wish.
Yeah.
I can do it. Obviously, I can do it. I do it without getting paid. So
there's so much.
Somebody wants to pay you to do it. That sounds great.
There's so much stuff that's coming out, and between just like you were just saying, Bobby, the stuff that's coming out, and then the things that we want to make time for, like on top of that, like it's
Right.
2021 actually is going to be a very big year in film, I think, for many reasons.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I think it is time to wrap this up. We have gone on for, well, if you're watching the
hours.
YouTube stream, about 3 hours.
Yeah.
We've gone on pretty well
Probably our
now.
longest show.
And yeah, if you're obviously listening to the audio version, this is the end of kind of the second episode of this whole experience with our top 10 films of 2020. Thank you for joining us for this, of course. As always, we'd love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com with your questions and comments. If you are watching on YouTube, please leave a comment or question down below. Make sure to hit that thumbs up icon if you enjoyed the show, and like and subscribe. And hit the bell icon if you want to be notified whenever we post any videos or go live in the future. You can reach out to us on Instagram and Twitter at @flicker_effect. Reach out to us there. You can send us questions and comments there as well. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
I'm Yasha Wilson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thank you for listening and watching.